Turn it on and rip the knob off.
This is episode 9, and we be fine here at the Wrestling Memory Grenade. I'm your host, Ray Russell, and we're back once again, along with my co-host, Mr. Steven Eckstadt. Was there ever any doubt? Steve, welcome back to the Grenade, my friend.
Happy to be here, man. It should be pretty fun. There's a lot of good stuff on these episodes.
And last week was fun, man. I had a blast, Steve, and I know you said you had a great time as well. If you don't know what we're talking about, we did the WrestleWar 89 watch-along last week on the WWE Network, and it was just a tremendous show, lots of fun, fast-paced, and really allowed me to open up a little and have some fun, take some liberties, and that seemed to get some positive feedback on social media. So we'll continue trending in that direction with our watch-alongs moving forward. There's nothing wrong with having some additional fun while enjoying the content on the TV screen. I must thank, as always, the Retro Network for their kindness over the past couple of months, allowing the Grenade into their home and making us feel like family. Mickey came to me maybe 3 or 4 months ago and offered us a gig to start running the Grenade as a part of their podcast network, and they have been nothing but accommodating and friendly and helpful throughout the entire process. I must add that Jason is just an absolute delight to speak with, one of the nicest and easiest people I've ever dealt with, and they run a great ship over there. Truth be told, I've been following the Retro Network since its inception. Mickey had mentioned it to me when it was first getting off the ground, and I've been enjoying the content they've put out ever since. The entire crew there, of course, Mickey and Jason, as well as Karen, Gary, Mr. Old School 80s himself, Tim, who was an early supporter of the Grenade, Jeff, Stacy, the House Show crew, Maddie Treats and the gang, Eric of Way Back Wednesday. They've got a great ensemble cast and crew over there. If you haven't been there before and you're deeply passionate about the retro era of the 80s and 90s like myself, you have to do yourself a favor and stop over at theretronetwork.com, as they have a little bit of everything for all to enjoy. Podcasts, playlists, and articles covering everything from our favorite commercials of time gone by to cartoons, movies, and a whole lot more. You can follow the Retro Network on Twitter at TRNSocial. There's quality content put out on the daily. I just want to say thank you again, guys, for everything, and I truly do hope to continue being a part of TRN and contributing where I can. I had a blast recording the Bracket Madness episodes and would love to do that again in the future. With Christmas coming up, there's just so much fun to be had there at the Retro Network. I really can't thank you guys enough for welcoming us into your circle, and I hope that continues for a long, long time to come. We've also got to thank our loyal fan base of listeners as you guys continue to listen, download, and subscribe to The Grenade. We can't thank you guys enough, and please continue to spread the word and retweet all of our posts from our Twitter account to help us grow. Congrats again are in order to the winner of the Total Package Lex Luger Autograph 1989 promo pick last week, and a reminder that you too can win free prizes as listeners of The Grenade. All you have to do is follow us on Twitter at Wrestling Grenade. It's that simple. Be a follower of The Grenade at RASSLIN Grenade on Twitter, and you're automatically entered in each and every free prize giveaway. And spread the word about the free prize giveaway, people, because the more subscribers and followers we have, the more gifts we can give away. And stay tuned to the end of the program, where we'll discuss just a couple of the free prizes that will soon be made available in upcoming giveaways. So I know we've got 3 weeks of reviewing to get to close out the month of May in 89, Steve, but first I want to get to our major announcement. Very exciting. So can I get a drum roll, please? The biggest news yet for the Grenade has to be the launch of the WrestleCopia brand and the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, which you can find over at www.WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, WrestleCopia.com. You've probably heard me mention it in passing, going all the way back to episode 1 of the Grenade, the WrestleCopia brand. You may be asking, what is the WrestleCopia brand? The name derives from the words wrestle, for wrestling, and copia, which is defined as having plenty, or an abundance of. It's an abundance of wrestling history over at WrestleCopia.com as the podcast network gets up and running with a variety of podcasts slated to launch over the course of the fall season. Everything from our show, The Grenade, to Monday Warfare, The Battle Within, an in-depth look and weekly breakdown of the entire Raw versus Nitro war, everything from weekly reviews of the product to backstage gossip and going on to those ever-important weekly ratings. It's Monday Warfare, The Battles Within, scheduled to launch very soon. The WrestleCopia News Network is another featured podcast over at the network. We've done a couple of pieces already in the Bullet Bob Armstrong special, and more recently, What a Rush, a tribute to Road Warrior Animal piece. You can expect more late-breaking news, timely discussions, and tributes to the fallen legends on future episodes of WCNN. Other podcasts currently being prepared for their debuts include Wrestling in Memphis, which takes us on a trip down memory lane, and it's all about the legendary Memphis territory in professional wrestling. From the early days of Nick Goulas to the Jerry Jarrett split and beyond, there's no era, no topic, no angle that's off limits. Stop by and relive your favorite Memphis memories or learn about the territory from the ground up. Another territory-based podcast coming to WrestleCopia is a show we like to call The Money in the Miles. There's an old saying in the world of professional wrestling that nothing in this business is real except the money made and the miles traveled. In this podcast, we discuss the territory era with shows focusing on everything from show reviews to yearly breakdowns to episodes focusing on some of the rare lesser-known territories and outlaw promotions of yesteryear that remain an enigma. This is my bread and butter, and I can't wait to participate as much as I can in getting that show up and running. If that wasn't enough, me and Steve here at The Grenade, on behalf of the WrestleCopia brand, are proud to announce a Patreon-only exclusive podcast called The Power Hour. And when Steve and I are feeling frisky, or we've had a few too many beers, we'll be recording a little show we like to call The Power Hour. It's an exclusive Patreon-only podcast that only those who subscribe to can access. You get elite access to the Power Hour podcast, an unedited, uncensored, and unfiltered discussion that guarantees to deliver. A reminder that we express our utmost personal opinions and don't hold back. It's uncensored and unfiltered. You've been warned. And with the new WrestleCopia podcast network comes the aforementioned Patreon account. We encourage everyone to stop on over to patreon.com/WrestleCopia and check out an amazing 14 tiers. And depending on your budget, we have everything from as little as a $1 tier to as much as a $100 tier. Get you all sorts of exciting offers. It all depends on what offer you value the most. You can do anything from join Steve and I right here as a co-host for an episode of The Grenade, all the way down to unedited versions of the show, early access to upcoming episodes. Beat everyone else to the punch, listen to what we talk about before everybody else. Plus, my insanely detailed show notes that I take each and every week, which I value ever so dearly. You can even pick the flick. And what that means is, if you subscribe to one of our You Pick the Flick tiers, you'll tell us, me and Steve, what show it is you want us to review. It can be a watch-along on the WWE Network, YouTube, Daily Motion. It can even be a live review of a rare show from my personal archive vault of videos. I have just about anything. No promotion, no territory, no era off limits. You can request anything from your favorite WrestleMania to an episode of 1982 World Class to the 60-minute classic between Jack Briscoe and Dory Funk Jr. from All Japan back in the 1970s. Hell, if you want to put us through the misery, we'll even pull a Mystery Science Theater over here and review Hell Comes to Frogtown starring Roddy Piper. You tell us what you want us to review, and we'll do our own little watch-along and do our best to entertain and give our insight in the process. And it doesn't end there. There's a $5 tier, $5 a month, a Power Patron tier. All you have to do is subscribe $5 to our Patreon account, where you, as the patron, get exclusive access to the Power Hour podcast that we release anywhere from 2 to 4 times per month, with the potential for bonus episodes being added at any given time. It's unfiltered, uncensored, unedited. We say whatever we think, whatever we feel on just about any topic. We'll answer your questions, review recent pay-per-views. There's even a little segment we like to call Things Meltzer Said, where we pick apart and debate things Meltzer said. All of that, plus other random questions, opinions, and stories are shared here on the Power Hour exclusive podcast for $5. It's a hell of a steal. Or, for only $2 more, you can subscribe to the $7 tier, the All Access tier, where for $2 more, not only do you gain access to the Power Hour, but you'll have complete access to our full library of random show reviews and watch-alongs we've done and continue to do as a side project. We review everything from the Flair Steamboat 2 out of 3 fall match from Clash 6 all the way down to the WWF Saturday Night Main Event from Halloween 1985. It's a proverbial hodgepodge of randomness, as you never know what we'll review next. And it's exclusive to the All Access tier or any higher tiers over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. Check it out now. That address again is patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That's WrestleCopia. And we've got a lot to get into this week. Like I mentioned already, another 3 weeks of NWA TV news and notes for May 13th through the 28th. We're going to finish up May in this episode, and then we'll take on June, the first 2 weeks of June in next episode. And 2 weeks from now, we'll have our next watch-along, another Clash of the Champions watch-along at that time. But right now, getting back to this week, I had a few people ask me last week, what happened to the VIP Jobber of the Month? What happened to the April NWA Top 10? Well, we didn't want to oversaturate the show, already doing the watch-along with the WrestleWar 89 watch-along, so I skipped those for last week. We brought them back this week, and we're going to get started, actually, with the April 89 VIP Jobber of the Month. And I think hands down, at least in my opinion, the April VIP Jobber of the Month has to go to Lee Scott, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. This poor guy took a beating, and he was so small, like this. He looked like paper thin, maybe 150, 175 pounds, soaking wet, and he just got brutalized in the ring. I know they were kind of being nice to him, obviously, but he sold it really well. He's a hell of a seller, so he deserves it, hands down. It wasn't even close.
Yeah, it wasn't even necessarily who he fought, because I know Cougar Jay wound up with the last trophy because he took on some of the big names from Muta to Flair and everyone in between, and then he did the Danger Zone segment. Lee Scott was more wrestling the mid-card guys, Rick Steiner, Eddie Gilbert. He did take on Muta during the month of April as well, but Dick Murdoch, even Vince Young, I think maybe even Junkyard Dog in there. So it wasn't necessarily the guys he got in the ring with, it was just the way he sold, just phenomenal. The bumps he took, the effort he put into the matches to make the other guys look good. He was doing jobs in tag team matches where the other guys should have technically probably been the one doing the jobs, but I think it was just because he made the match look so good. He made their moves look so good. They wanted him in the ring instead. So I have to say congratulations goes to Lee Scott for our April 1989 VIP Jobber of the Month. Lee Scott, you can head over to our Twitter account, pick up your trophy there. Welcome to the club, right, Steve?
That's right, man. Welcome.
And we got one more thing to get out of the way before we head into the news and notes here for May of 1989, and that is our NWA Top 10. Hello, wrestling fans. This is not Tony Schiavone, and now here's a look at this month's NWA Top 10 for the month of April 1989, as composed by promoters of the Wrestling Memory Grenade Board of Directors. In at 10 this week, and breakdancing his way out of the NWA, it's Vince Young. Number 9 is April's VIP Jobber of the Month, Lee Scott. Falling to 8, yes folks, he's still employed. For now, it's JYD Junkyard Dog. Debuting at number 7 is the Games Master, Coach, Professor, and Barber all rolled into one, the original tugboat, Kevin Sullivan. I've got a fever, and the only cure is more cowbell. Dick Murdoch's Cowbell in at 6. Number 5, and returning to the NWA, Don't Step to Ron. Damn, it's Ron Simmons. He's taking some personal time off for some mental health days. Thank you, fuck you, bye. It's Jim Cornette at 4. And at 3, when you're named after an obscure vegetable, you have to be cool. It's Rhubarb Jones. Poop jokes aren't my favorite, but he's a solid number 2. It's Steven Xtat's favorite wrestler, Michael B.S. Hayes. And for the last time ever, at number 1, let the doorknob hit you where the good Lord split you. Everyone say nah nah hey hey goodbye to Booker George Scott. And that's a look at the April 89 NWA Top 10. All right, another top 10 out of the way. Always fun to hear another NWA top 10, Steve.
Oh yeah, it was great, man. I love listening to these and hearing them. Seeing the idea come to light is awesome. Great work.
Yeah, you never know who might crack that top 10, so always listen. And now we'll move on to the month of May, now that the WrestleWar pay-per-view is in the books. Again, we had a blast last week. I had a blast. I can't necessarily speak for you, Steve, but I had a blast doing the watch-along for the WrestleWar pay-per-view.
Yeah, it was a tremendous show. It was so fast, and the matches just went bam, bam, bam. Like, compared to Chi-Town Rumble, it was night and day. He was able to focus on the action and not get too bored. Just a great show. It went so fast, but it was so easy, and it was entertaining as hell. Just a great show all around.
And the fans of the Wrestling Observer would agree with you, because they gave 296 thumbs up, 0 thumbs down for a 100% positive review of the WrestleWar pay-per-view. I couldn't agree more. It's not often you see a 100% positive review on a pay-per-view there in the Observer, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it deserved it. Again, you had so much action. You had a great match with Flair and Steamboat, the angle with Terry Funk. Even though the tag title matches were rushed, I still thought they were entertaining. They didn't make a whole lot of sense, some of the booking decisions, but overall, I mean, the matches that needed to go long went long, and the ones that needed to go short went short, and they knocked it out of the park. Really good job by the NWA here.
And speaking of the tag team title matches, the U.S. tag team titles, I had mentioned in the last match on the pay-per-view with Rick Steiner and Eddie Gilbert getting the win, retaining the titles, that Rick Steiner had torn his bicep 2 days prior to the pay-per-view, so he's technically out now. He wanted to make the pay-per-view before he took some time off. Steiner's reportedly going to be out for at least a month. He does return in early June, which is still insanely early, if you ask me. But also, to note, Eddie Gilbert is also out with a blown knee shortly after the pay-per-view. So both champions are out, and actually the U.S. tag team titles will basically disappear, and they won't return again until 1990.
It's crazy they just get rid of them and never mention it and just kind of move on, especially for some belts that meant something. Just very weird, questionable booking there.
Yeah, I had no complaints when they phased out the 6-man tag team belts. Yeah, I wasn't happy here with U.S. tag team titles kind of getting thrown by the wayside just because Gilbert and Steiner are out. And it's kind of funny because basically, technically, both tag team championships, the world and the U.S. tag titles, both kind of went vacant at the same time here. So we have no tag teams that are champions right now.
It would have been kind of cool, with both of them injured, and they, instead of just doing away with the U.S. titles, why didn't they make the tournament winner takes all, and we just unify the belts and you have one world tag team champion? It would add a lot of meaning to it, but they clearly didn't do that, and they just kind of dumped some belts, which doesn't make sense.
And besides dumping of belts, we've got a lot of dead weight moving out, too, as new talent heads in. Following WrestleWar, the Iron Sheik had went back to the airport to leave Nashville, where they attempted to check his bags. Sheiky refused to allow them to check his bags, so he was sent home by the NWA, and now he's sitting at home being paid to do absolutely nothing.
Wish I could get on that gig.
Yeah, this is one of those instances where I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
just pay the man and count your losses. Speaking of losses, the Junkyard Dog also gone, fired after he no-showed, or maybe I don't know that he necessarily no-showed, but he certainly refused to do the job to Muta and did not show up for the WrestleWar 89 pay-per-view. Of course, Doug Gilbert wound up taking the Dog's place there. So the Dog's gone, Sheik's gone. Like I said, some of the dead weight getting moved out of the NWA, at least, I don't know necessarily contractually, but certainly off the television screen, which is a good thing for the NWA moving forward. A lot more fast-paced action, certainly, with these guys out of the ring.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of, you're getting rid of those WWF retreads and those George Scott misfires, and you're bringing in some talent that's going to be worlds better than one of those two. So, yeah, smart move.
And listen to this list of talent that will be coming into the NWA in the days, weeks, months to come. We learned that Scott Steiner should be popping up almost immediately, and he does here on these TV episodes we're going to be covering. Flying Brian Pillman headed in from Stampede Wrestling as well. We're going to start seeing Brian Pillman music videos here coming up very shortly. Also, names like Sid Vicious, Jimmy Garvin returning to the NWA, Scott Hall, Wild Bill Irwin, Ricky Santana, and a guy we'll become accustomed to know as Norman.
Yeah, that's quite the lineup there. It's crazy. Not all of them are great at this point in time, but I'm excited to see them and see what they do with them initially and see their start. I kind of know where some of them come in, but I'm interested to see some of it, to be honest with you. I don't know how Sid's brought in. I can't remember it, so I'm excited for that. Yeah,
but just look at some of the studs in there, not necessarily maybe as soon as they walk in. Maybe they don't realize it other than their looks. Just look at the first few names: Scott Steiner, Brian Pillman, Sid Vicious. Those are future stars, all major stars, especially as part of the WCW. Of course, Sid would go on to do even more. Scott Steiner, very well known in tag team and eventually singles for a completely different reason, if you ask me. Brian Pillman, one of the most talented guys that never really got the push he deserved, I think, in WCW. But then Jimmy Garvin's coming back, who was always a solid hand and upper card worker, if you ask me. Certainly a great tag team guy, but also had a hell of a run in Dallas, and he had a hell of a run here even when he worked against Ric Flair for a little bit there with Precious. So I'm happy to see Jimmy Garvin coming back in. Not necessarily happy to see where they're going to put him, but I'm happy to see him coming in. Scott Hall getting a chance here. He had a big run with the AWA. He certainly has the look. It's just a matter of finding that right niche, that right gimmick, that right character. I don't know if he's going to find it here just yet, but with that mustache, I say, hey, man, give him a shot and we'll see what happens. And then
should have been a detective with that mustache. Should have been a detective.
Magnum Bill PI. Yeah, Magnum PI. Magnum Scott Hall in the AWA. Wild Bill Irwin. A solid hand, eventually became the Goon in the WWF in 1996. But Bill Irwin, a solid hand. I watched him quite a bit in Global and in Dallas. I think he's just there, to fill in. It's fodder on the card, obviously, probably undercard fodder. Ricky Santana, loved his look at the time. I thought he really had potential. Not really sure what happens to Ricky Santana throughout here in 1989. He had a solid run in Puerto Rico. Not really sure what happens with him here, like I said, in the NWA in 89, but I did like his run. I remember watching him a few times here in 89, so I'm happy to see Ricky Santana coming in and getting any kind of work. And then Norman, we'll let that play out. I got some audio clips of Norman, so we'll get to that later. Also, it looks like Doug Gilbert's going to stick around. Eddie Gilbert's younger brother, Doug Gilbert. He's reportedly the Raider now. I don't believe he was the Raider before. I think it was Randy Barber, but maybe I'm wrong. But the information I had before was it was Randy Barber. I didn't really think it matched Doug Gilbert's body either. But it looks like at least at some point over the next few weeks, months, Dave Meltzer reports the Raider's now going to be portrayed by Doug Gilbert. Of course, the Raider, just a job guy, mass job guy, to hide Doug's identity while he gets some more seasoning. And lastly, supposedly, Nikita Koloff is in negotiations, which apparently go nowhere because we don't see Nikita return to the WCW until 1991.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I think that the angle they did at the end of that tag match would have been really cool to see, like the Roadies and Nikita against the Varsity Club. That would have been really, really fun. And he had a great look at that pay-per-view. He looked really awesome. He looked slimmed down in his haircut. He was looking pretty good. He would have been awesome in 89 for sure. And then you can even move him up the card with Flair or whoever if you need to or something like that. Just a missed opportunity there, I think. But I think what you said with his wife, I wonder if that had a lot to do with it.
Dave Meltzer in The Observer around this time hints at a biggie talent acquisition, but he doesn't know who. He's not being told who, but he's told that there might be a very big talent acquisition coming into the NWA in the next couple of weeks. Of course, 2 or 3 weeks pass, and then you get back into the Observer, and Dave's starting to shut it down. Apparently, they're not coming in. I don't know what happened, but I'm very curious as to who it may have been. I mean, let the speculation go there. I know there was talk of Ted DiBiase during that time, Bret Hart during that time, so could have been interesting if it was one of them, but I mean, it could have been somebody completely different as well.
Yeah, I saw that when I was reading through the Observer, and then I went 2 weeks ahead thinking he was going to break the news, and then the big story 2 weeks later was Dusty Rhodes going to the WWF, so I just assumed it was that, and I didn't really see him mention it any other place regarding that big acquisition, so hard telling who it was. I didn't know if it was just Dusty going to the WWF or what, but that's very interesting.
Supposedly, Joe Pedicino Knows is going to be revamped and focus more on actually selling the house shows and do localized promos, and the less of the hype garbage that they've been doing right now as far as selling the pay-per-views and selling these free prize giveaways and things like that. So hopefully that does change over the course of the next weeks or month because like we've pointed out in past episodes, the last couple episodes, what they're doing right now just is not working.
Absolutely not. It's a cheap ripoff of the event center, and it's just not getting the job done, I don't think.
And lastly, Terry Funk will be in the upcoming movie being released in June of 1989. The movie starring Patrick Swayze, Roadhouse. And that's one of my all-time personal favorites. That's one of my go-tos. Even though I can watch it anytime I want on streaming apps and things, if I see it on TV, I'll still kind of flip it over there, even though it's edited or whatever, just because it's almost like a comfort food to me. If it's on my TV, if nothing else is on, I'll flip it on there and leave it on TV.
I love Roadhouse. It's a great movie. It's very entertaining, and I love 80s action movies, and that fills it up. That fits that criteria. So yeah, awesome movie.
And now we're going to move into the television for the weekend of May 13th, 1989. We're going to kick off with Pro. And this week it's hosted by Bob Caudle and Lance Russell. What an awesome duo that is. They're standing in an arena. I'm not really sure if it was the arena in Nashville, post-WrestleWar, or what was going on here, but they're in an arena somewhere hosting this episode.
I always look to the arenas and things like that because I enjoy that aspect. So I definitely notice it when it does happen. Something different. Pretty cool to see him in there.
And so even though George Scott is gone, we still have some issues here as far as I'm concerned with the showing the pay-per-view finishes on TV. The show kicks off showing the finish of every single title match from the pay-per-view. The U.S. Heavyweight, the television, the World Tag, the U.S. Tag, and the World Heavyweight Championship match. The finish of all 5 championship matches are shown right here, back to back to back to back to back on NWA Pro. And then after that, we're joined in progress the final 5 minutes of the Lex Luger-Michael Hayes match from the pay-per-view as well. So not only do we see the finishes of all the world title matches, we're even given a glimpse, a little more of the action, if you want to call it action, in the Michael Hayes title win with Terry Gordy returning from WrestleWar. What did you think? Are you okay with this continuing? I mean, George Scott's gone and these guys are still doing it, so they must think it's a good idea. I don't care for it at all.
Yeah, the question I have with this is, do you think it hurts buy rates? because their buy rates are kind of going down each passing pay-per-view. They get a little bit lower and a little bit lower. I know there wasn't a huge jump between Chi-Town Rumble and the Music City Showdown as far as buys go, but it just makes you wonder, like me personally, like, what was it, $25 back then? Was that the price, the going rate in 89?
It had to be less than that, especially the NWA, yeah. Definitely under $20.
20 or 25. So, or, maybe 15 to 20. I don't know what the price was. If I'm paying for something, I expect it to be only seen at that point because you got to pay for it. I mean, this is like having a Tyson fight and then a week later, all the news channels had every round for free. That's disheartening as a consumer. If the mystique of pay-per-view is to see it only on pay-per-view, and then all I got to do is turn it into syndication, I don't even have to pay for cable. I can just get syndication and be able to see all the finishes to all the matches. I get it. You're not seeing the whole match. You're not seeing everything. There's things that you're going to miss, obviously. But really, a lot of the people, all they care about is who wins and how do they win. And they essentially give you all that in this little highlight package. So I'm just curious if it hurt buys. Like, did they realize this hurt buys or not? I don't know, but I don't like it. I'm not saying go out and copy the WWF and just do like photo stills, but come up with a different idea, a different way. Maybe show highlights leading up to the end and then say, hey, check out Music City Showdown on VHS when it comes out or something like that. Do something like that. But I don't like giving away the finishes and all that to every single match. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. See, the only thing I can do is reference myself and how I felt as a kid whenever I saw the finish of matches. I saw the finish of a pay-per-view or something like that on television. I didn't necessarily care just about the finish. Seeing the finish made me want to see what the hell happened the prior 10, 15, 20 minutes in the match. Like, man, that finish was so great. How great was the entire match altogether? So let's just say Vince had showed the finish to the Hogan Warrior match. That would have been phenomenal, but it wouldn't have kept me from wanting to see that entire match still. So, I mean, that's the way I look at it back then. But right now, if you wanted to give away the finish to the Sting Iron Sheik match or even that whole stupid 2-minute television title match in the pay-per-view, I'm down with that. It was really irrelevant. It was basically a squash for Sting to get him over a former big-name talent. So, like you said, somebody commented on the shirt you wore of Iron Sheik before, so people kind of know who the Iron Sheik was during that mid-'80s time frame. He was national when WWF was expanding, so I thought it was really cool, smart on their part before they got rid of the Sheik to give Sting something, throw him a little bone, beats the Sheik in a couple minutes. You want to put that on TV? I'm fine with that. To show all 5 of your finishes to all 5 of your title matches in a row, I don't understand the logic behind that. But I guess, yeah. And we'll move into the action now. We get the Great Muta out there with Randy Rose. Randy Rose still sticking around. We got Yellow Mist today from Muta. That might be the first time I've seen the Yellow Mist from the Great Muta. Randy Rose is a step down or step above a jobber at this point. So he gets in some token offense early on, but Muta takes over and does a lot of his normal Muta stuff. Rose makes the big comeback at the end. Top rope splash misses, but it actually hits. I'm not really sure what he was going for there. The announcers tried to sell it like Randy missed a knee drop off the top rope. Looked to me like he was going for a splash. Muta tried to roll in to get out of the way, and Randy still kind of landed on him, but they sold it like he missed. Muta shows Rose how it's done, though. Great Muta climbs to the top rope, nails the moonsault, gets the win in 4.5 minutes. Good little match.
Pretty entertaining. It wasn't bad.
We get the Dynamic Dudes taking on Lee Scott and the Raider. Dudes have that Arn Anderson Enforcers music, and just no. And I understand that they clearly have it first. This is before Arn Anderson had it, but still no. Just I can't compute this in my mind. Somehow I never noticed that they ever use this music, and it's killing me every week they come out to it. So hopefully it ends soon. Russell kind of upsets me here. He exclaims that the Dynamic Dudes are going to be around for a long time. Again, just no. Please no. Just no. Decent double team move here. They do a drop down and a drop kick. It was nicely timed. Shane Douglas whipped the job guy off the ropes, did the drop down. Job guy ran right into a really nice looking drop kick from Johnny Ace. I didn't even realize Johnny Ace could get up and make a drop kick look that good, but that was about the only good stuff out of that match. Double slingshot back suplex. The wipeout ends it. Scott takes a nice bump off the move. Like I said, Lee Scott taking the finisher instead of the Raider simply because he takes it so well. And the dudes get the win with the wipeout in about 1.5 minutes. And thank God this was just a minute because it made it not as offensive. Probably the best they've looked, and that's only because it went 90 seconds. I don't know, man. The dudes just aren't working for me. And I already knew that going in here, but I didn't realize. And so far, they haven't really pissed the crowd off yet, but I already know what's coming. So I've already lost interest pretty damn fast. I do feel for them, though. They're busting their ass, but I can't get into it.
I can't either. Even 1989 me would be like, this is stupid. You're trying too hard. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I feel bad for them. They're working their ass off. They deserve better than this. Both of them did. It's just unfortunate.
Grab the soundbite, too, of the dudes after they get the win here. It has that Arn Anderson music I was referencing. Just in case someone doesn't believe me, check it out.
Full team up. 1, 2, 3, and there it goes, Bob. What do you think? I tell you, it didn't take them long. Johnny and Shane, the Dynamic Dudes, with a very, very impressive victory over Lee Scott and the Big Raider in there. No easy job, to say the least, but, brother, they made it look easy.
And right here you can see it again, fans, in slow motion as they slingshot him into that suplex off of that rope. Scott face down to the mat. Johnny just rolls him over, covers him for the count of 3. And the Dynamic Dudes with another great win for them. And stay tuned. You're going to hear a lot of these young men in the future in the NWA.
We still got great action coming up on NWA Pro, and we're going to be back to it in just a moment.
And I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't heard it myself, but it's so amazing that you take Dynamic Dude's theme and you give it to Arn Anderson and he just makes it his own. And it makes you think of murder, like this dude's coming out there to slit somebody's throat. Like when I hear that music, I picture Arn Anderson taking that thumb and running it across his throat in slow motion. And instead it's Johnny and Shane coming out with skateboards. So it's just amazing.
Could you imagine that conversation? Hey, Arn, we're going to give you the old Dynamic Dudes music. What the hell are you talking about?
Arn wasn't there when they had that music. Maybe if he had known that, you're going to give me the Dudes music, he probably wouldn't. Yeah, probably wouldn't have flown so well.
No, but don't they end up getting like Wipeout?
They do come out to Wipeout at some point. I think it's like a generic version of Wipeout or something like that. Maybe in the real version of Wipeout at some point. But yeah, they do. And I think something. Then they have that weird other song, and I think it's a wah 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 wah, something like that.
That's more their style.
Yeah,
that music doesn't fit them at all.
No, not at all. We follow that up with more highlights from WrestleWar. This time it's the into the Steamboat and Flair match. It might have even been highlights. I didn't mark it down here, but basically this is shown to play out the Terry Funk angle, which I would have shown on TV after the pay-per-view because this is your bread and butter. This is where ratings are coming in, or you want them to come in anyway. This is where you want your next buy rate from. So I'm down for them showing this Terry Funk Ric Flair angle here on TV. And of course, we learned Ric Flair's now out because of this, where Funk had attacked Flair after the match at WrestleWar and Pyle drove him on the table. And we move on to...
no issues with that. That's fine with me.
Right.
They need to show that, obviously, but the other stuff, no.
It's Pedicino knows again. He goes on about the Murdoch and Orton post-match stuff from WrestleWar with Orton hanging Murdoch. Of course, that becomes relevant here pretty soon. We'll get to that later on in the show. Moving on, next match, it's Ron Simmons and Junkyard Dog. It's a rematch from the World Championship Wrestling episode where Teddy Long turned heel and screwed the dog out of a win. Not only is Teddy long gone as the referee here in NWA, JYD is long gone from the NWA, and I think this is probably the dog's last appearance on TV. Ron Simmons, early on in the match, lands a headbutt on the dog, hurts himself, obviously, but I was really impressed that the dog sold it as well. JYD dropped to his knees like he got stunned from Ron Simmons. I guess they're doing that African-American headbutt thing, so Ron Simmons' head is hard too. I'm not really sure what they were going for there, but I was really impressed that the dog decided to sell a little bit for Simmons.
Yeah, I love that too. Simmons fell back like a bag of bricks, this real slow and slow motion. It was really entertaining. Great spot. That's probably the best part of the whole match.
Teddy Long scouts this match as if being involved as a referee in the prior match was anything. Now he's out here scouting Ron Simmons, presumably. This match was a whole lot of nothing. JYD gets distracted by Teddy Long. Then Simmons to the middle rope. He gets distracted by Teddy Long. I'm not even sure what the hell was going on there. Dog schoolboy Simmons off the middle rope into a 1-2-3. Match goes a whole whopping 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Definition of a nothing match.
Yeah, absolutely. It was terrible. Outside that headbutt spot, it was shit.
Promo time with Terry Funk. This is a pre-tape from right after WrestleWar. Funk cut a promo backstage. This is Terry Funk's first NWA promo, if you don't count the actual angle with Ric Flair. It was a doozy, so I'm going to play it right now.
I want to talk to you simple-minded people out there. Have you looked at the logo of the National Wrestling Alliance? It says, "This is the NWA. We wrestle."
Well, Terry Funk does not wrestle for the NWA. I do not wrestle for Mr. Jim Herd, nor do I wrestle for Ted Turner. I wrestle for myself. Now, Ric Flair has the audacity to say or to insinuate that I am not good enough, that I am not active enough. Well, look what happened to Ric Flair. Oh, I am so sorry. When I picked him up in that pile driver and drove his head into that table, I felt a very heavy crack. And I am sorry, and I want to apologize for putting Ric Flair out of wrestling. But you have to understand that Ric Flair comes to the ring like Barbara Bush with anorexia. Ric Flair comes to the ring with a banana nose, with horse teeth, dressed in looking like Phyllis Diller in drag. Is this what you want your children to look up to? Can't you realize that I did you a favor? John Wayne, where are you? Audie Murphy, where are you? Where are all of our old heroes? Well, here I am, and glad to see you.
Frickin' amazing.
Yeah, when I first heard this, I was like, oh my God, we got to get that one. Because I love the ending. I don't know. It was like the icing on the cake of a tremendous promo. And the jokes were funny about, like, Barbara Bush with anorexia, how he comes out to the ring. It was just tremendous. And it was a great way to bring Terry Funk back. Again, I love the last line, where's all your old heroes? Well, I'm here. And that was just perfect. I loved it. Funk he's on his game in '89. This is probably the best. This is my favorite era of Terry Funk right here.
It's sick to think how many years he's been off. I mean, he left the WWF in '86, and to the best of my knowledge, I can't remember him really being anywhere in between '86 and here other than Hollywood, unless he had some Japanese tours or something like that in there. I'm not really sure without looking it up. He's been off, he's been away, he's been in Hollywood, and he comes back here, and just his very first promo knocks it out of the park. And this is the promo Dave Meltzer mentioned, one of the observers, where he said a lot of the wrestlers and other people were standing by when they heard when he cut this promo, and everybody was in awe. I was in awe. This guy hasn't had to cut a promo in years. And I'm not saying that, Terry Funk forgets how to cut a promo, but I mean, to be that good, that fast, you're already the best promo in the entire promotion overnight. Amazing.
Yeah, he came in and was rivaling Ric Flair immediately. And this is such a huge contrast between Flair and Steamboat on the mic to Flair and Funk. Oh, yeah, buckle up. It's going to be awesome.
And I love Lance Russell here in this episode and future episodes. Anytime Lance has to interact with Terry Funk, it's really fun stuff. Bob Caudle's more of a straight man. Lance Russell's always been a straight man as well, but Lance kind of sells things bigger. And he clearly wants nothing to do with Terry Funk. He doesn't want to be around Terry Funk. He references past experiences he's had with Terry Funk. They mentioned that Terry's going to be on the show next week. Lance says, maybe we shouldn't be here. It was just a real fun. I like the way Lance sold everything here. Called Terry Funk nutty. And, that doesn't really sound like much, but when Lance says it, it gives me a chuckle.
Yeah, this adds to the mystique of Terry Funk. Like, he is nuts. He's middle-aged and crazy. I know that slogan came later on in life, but he may even bring it up in '89, to be honest. It just plays into the character that Terry Funk was. I think Jim Ross mentions a bunch that he's a rattlesnake and he can get you at any time, just stuff like that. So the announcers did their part in helping out Funk here. He didn't need any help, but he got the extra help.
We'll move into the nighttime program, World Championship Wrestling for May 13th, taped on May 9th, just 2 days after the pay-per-view, the WrestleWar pay-per-view. Still no Michael Hayes on commentary, so I applaud that. We kick things off right away with a Paulie Dangerously promo. He claims that the SST have ran off the Fantastics. Pretty sure that didn't happen. He claims the SST ran off the Midnights. That kind of happened. And he challenges the Road Warriors on behalf of the SST for next week. Now, the thing is, the Road Warriors already have a match with the Freebirds next week, so they can't necessarily accept this challenge, which Paulie may already know. this is a big deal because this is where he starts goading at the Road Warriors, claiming the SST's the new bad boys on the block. And here's the promo from Paulie Dangerously in regards to the SST and Road Warriors.
You're here to congratulate me, aren't you? You're here to congratulate me on national TV because I, Paulie Dangerously, am the manager of the next World Tag Team Champions, the Samoan SWAT team. You can congratulate me right now because there's only one team that's left to beat for the Samoan SWAT team. Oh, you said the Fantastics would give us trouble, and we ran them out. You said the Midnight could give us trouble, and we ran them out. So right here on national TV, I'm issuing the challenge. Let's not go through it all. Let's not go through a war. Right here on national TV next week, I challenge the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, to put it all up in the first round against my Samoan SWAT team, Samu and Fatu. But by the time we're done with you, there's no one left to face. We'll be the champions, and we'll wipe off that makeup that your street-walking mama applied.
All right, well, those comments from Paulie Dangerously will...
Wow, pretty strong words from Paulie. I know this is a work, but I was kind of scared for him there in those last couple lines.
I wonder if he ran it by him at first. Like, hey, this is what I'm going to say. You okay with this? He may have. I don't know, but
it was good stuff. Good stuff.
It was great. Paulie nails it every time.
On to action in the ring with the Great Muta taking on Ranger Ross, and at this point, unfortunately, it's sad to say, it appears Ross has been relegated to in-ring introductions now, which means jobber-style introductions, no music anymore. Ross already waiting in the ring for his ass beating here. We also learned that Gary Hart has challenged anyone and everyone to a Dragon Shy match with the Great Muta, but most particularly Sting for some reason. Not really sure. They don't make it clear why Sting is the chosen one until later on. Muta does all his stuff, fun as usual. We get a weird spot at one point where I think Ranger Ross is trying to cross. He bounces off the ropes and comes running at Muta with the crossbody. Muta takes a bump, but Ranger completely clears him. Never touches him with the crossbody. Lands past Muta because Muta bumps so fast. It looked like, to me, Muta was trying to dodge the move, and I think Ross was completely confused as to what was going on. But then Muta laid there like he was selling the move at the same time, so I was completely confused in the whole spot.
Yeah, me too. It looked like he was going down, like he was ready to catch him on the cross body, but he took the bump early, so that's what made Ross miss. And Jim Ross did a great job on commentary. He played it off that Muta is one move ahead of everyone, and that is why the Ranger was unable to connect with his cross body. I thought that was a good play-by-play by JR there to cover up the mishap and not destroy Muta for doing something like that. It kind of enhanced Muta even more. Like he is one or two moves ahead of everybody. So it looked awkward. It looked weird, but JR covered it pretty good there.
We actually had some pretty loud Muta chants during this match, so he's really getting a babyface reaction from these fans. Muta's just so crisp with his strikes. They look so believable and so deadly. He even busts out a Stone Cold Stunner here in 1989.
It looked awesome. It's not
really
as good
did.
as you would expect Muta to do a Stone Cold Stunner, which is probably tremendous in most people's mind, and it didn't disappoint.
No, it was badass. It looked legit. Like it looked like a real move. I mean, yeah, definitely. I'm going to try to throw that up in a GIF here on Twitter this coming week. Ranger Ross gets in a few quick comebacks throughout the match, little hope spots here and there. Muta misses a handspring elbow. Ross makes a final comeback. He goes for the combat kick, his super kick. Muta actually catches the foot, but lands a sloppy back leg sweep. But the intent of that finish would have been really nice because Ross throws up that combat kick. Muta catches it and spins around in that back leg sweep. Muta goes straight to the top, lands the moonsault, gets the win in just about 4 minutes. And Jim Ross marks out at Muta spraying 2-color mists, green and red, in the same match.
Yeah, I thought Muta looked a little sloppy here, but I think it was more Ranger Ross than it had anything to do with Muta. It's kind of what happens when you got a green guy in there.
Highlights once again of Terry Funk attacking Ric Flair from WrestleWar 89 are shown. This time, Jim Ross explains that we learn Ric Flair has a ruptured disc and a compressed vertebrae, so Flair will be out of action for at least a brief period of time.
Did Meltzer say why he was out?
I think I believe he's just selling the.
Just selling. I didn't know if there was like anything he had to work on or something, but it's just weird. They have 2 title changes, like the last 2 title changes. Steamboat wins the belt, and he hightails it to Japan for like 3 weeks, and then Flair wins it, and he's on the shelf for at least a month to sell an injury. So it's like you switch the champion, and then you don't even have him on TV for 2 or 3 weeks because they're doing something else.
Might have been a good idea to keep him off TV either way, because with Flair being back on TV too quickly, we wouldn't have had all this Terry Funk goodness, because we would have had Flair intermixed in with all of that. And I think it was a good idea to keep him off TV while Terry Funk was building up all this tremendous heat that he gets here over the next few weeks.
Absolutely. I'm not mad about it. It's just kind of awkward that it happened like that.
I get
it's just circumstance, but it's just weird to see that.
Right. And following the announcement of Flair's injury, we get another Terry Funk promo, and I grabbed it for everyone to hear.
Fans, of course, we'll keep you updated right here on the Superstation as the progress of Nature Boy Ric Flair and his convalescence. I want to know what provocation, what reason did you have to do what you did in Nashville?
I would like to explain to you and you simple-minded people out there why I did this to Ric Flair. You see, we were having a verbal confrontation, Flair and I made my points and he made his, and he made the insinuation that I should not be a contender in the NWA. I felt otherwise. So, being the gentleman I was, though, I shook his hand because it was his moment. But I know Ric Flair just like you simple-minded people know Ric Flair. I shook his hands and I saw that hate gleam in his eyes. I felt that hand tighten up, and I knew there was a Sunday coming, so I beat him to the punch. And when I beat Ric Flair to the punch, what did the man do? He laid down on the mat and he groveled. He quit. He turned yellow like his hair. Then I pile drove him, and now he is trying to claim that he has some doctor, such as Dr. Knows-It-All, some quack who is saying that Ric Flair is injured. He is no more injured than anyone else. He has lost his guts, and he has none at this time. And I am the better man, and I should be rated in the NWA right now. Do you understand that, Mr. Ross?
I understand quite well.
And Terry Funk feels slighted that he's not in the NWA Top 10, but he keeps saying he's not part of the NWA. So why does he expect to be in the NWA Top 10?
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense, but I'm loving the hell out of all these Terry Funk promos.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really questioning him. That was more a rhetorical question. I'm not going to question Terry Funk. He can pretty much do whatever he wants.
You hear the cheers he was getting there? Like,
yeah,
that crowd was starting to pop for the promo.
They really, those cheers picked up as the promo kept going. It just kept getting better and better.
It must have been hard because those fans seem to be somewhat smartened up a little bit. I don't know if they're just NWA fans and they love wrestling or what, but they cheered everybody. They didn't really care. They just wanted to be entertained, and that's pretty cool to see. It's way different than a WWF crowd with all the piped in noise and shit, but definitely interesting.
So we move away from a Terry Funk promo, and we move into a Lex Luger promo. Of course, Luger just lost the belt, the U.S. title, to Michael Hayes, thanks to the return of Terry Gordy. Let's hear what Lex Luger has to say.
You know, everybody said, Lex, now that you've had a week to cool off, sit back and really think things out. Be the Lex Luger everybody wants you to be. Go back after Michael Hayes. You're damn straight. I'm going after Michael Hayes. But it's not the Lex Luger you're used to seeing. I'm sick and tired. I've had it up to here by playing by the rules all the time. Good old Lex Luger. It's going to be a different Lex Luger. It's time for Lex Luger to come unwrapped just a little bit. It's time for Lex Luger to step forward on his own. I'm sick and tired of trying to please everyone else in my life. It's time for Lex Luger And don't anybody, mark my words right now, stand in my way, because I'm coming after what's mine, and that's the U.S. heavyweight title, Michael Hayes.
Looks like Lex Luger's bringing a new edge to his character here.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely needed. The babyface Luger didn't necessarily work for me. I think he's more in his natural element, unless he's going against a guy like Ric Flair or something like that that can bring out the best of those babyface tendencies. It doesn't really work. So I think this is a much needed edge to his character, and I'm sure the majority know where this is leading to. A lot of people say it made no sense why he turned, but he's laying the groundwork here. He's tired of being taken advantage of. He's ready to get back to doing whatever it takes to win by any means necessary type deal.
Right. And we'll go back to the ring now for tag team action with the Freebirds, Michael Hayes and the returning Terry Gordy take on two VIP Jobber of the Month, Lee Scott and Cougar Jay. Story early is Hayes lets the job guys get the best of him with some basics, just so he can tag out to Gordy, and Terry comes in and mauls the hell out of Lee Scott. And once again, I point out that's why Lee is there. That's why he's getting put in these matches, because he makes these guys look so much more badass than they already are. Nasty punt kicks by Gordy to Lee Scott, and he flings Scott outside the ring. I thought the dude was going to land on his head. It was comical. Gordy just looks so badass throughout this entire match. They do the spot where Michael Hayes backdrops Lee Scott into Gordy for a powerbomb to get the win in 205, and Terry Gordy may be the only way Michael Hayes can have a watchable match.
I love Terry Gordy. I haven't seen a whole lot of him, but when he's on TV, I just pay attention. He has a look that's different, and he just looks legit in the ring, like you said. Just a tremendous talent. I'm pumped he's in the NWA right now.
And the Freebirds stop over with Jim Ross for a promo. Obviously, they touch on two things. First is Lex Luger wants the U.S. title back. Lex Luger's challenged Michael Hayes to a bad street match, or a bad street death match, which is basically a no disqualification match. Hayes says he's never lost one, so he welcomes the opportunity to wrestle Luger in one of these type matches. Gordy also responds because the Freebirds have entered the NWA World Tag Team Title Tournament, the vacant titles from WrestleWar. Gordy says the Freebirds are the greatest tag team ever. Nobody can beat them. And if you notice again, there's a lot of fan support here, at least when Terry Gordy talks, not necessarily always just Michael Hayes, but Gordy's getting pops, so it's lots of fan support for the heels here today. Funk, Muta got chance, Gordy. At least the fans have good taste in their heels.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't go wrong with that group.
Michael Hayes closes the promo. He says, Ted Turner finally owns a winning sports franchise, obviously referencing the losing Braves here in 89. It'll be about another 2 years before the Braves made the World Series, I believe they did in 91. But yeah, Hayes just basically putting over the Freebirds as the winning franchise of the Turner organization. And of course he would.
Yeah, of course.
More highlights of WrestleWar 89. We get the finishes again. Blah. Promo from Jim Herd. Executive Vice President Jim Herd's out there. He discusses with Jim Ross the vacant tag team titles and the upcoming NWA World Tag Team Title Tournament. And the brackets are shown, and Jim Herd claims these are the 8 top tag teams in the world. And listen to this lineup. You get the Road Warriors taking on the Freebirds. So far, okay, I can buy that. Then you get the Dynamic Dudes, who just debuted a couple weeks ago, taking on the New Zealand Militia, which at this point, we don't even know who the hell they are. I know who they are, but at this point, we have no idea who they are because Jack Victory, who's one of the New Zealand Militia, he's still out here working Secret Service gimmick. I don't know if they hadn't intended on who was going to be part of it with Rip Morgan at this point or what the hell was going on, but how the New Zealand Militia made the top 8 teams in the world beyond me. We also see the SST will take on the tag team that has never even teamed up of Ranger Ross and Ron Simmons, yet somehow they also are in the Elite 8 top tag teams in the world. SST versus Simmons and Ranger Ross. But this is the big one, the Midnight Express return for this tag team tournament. They're going to take on the team of Butch Reed and Bob Orton, another makeshift team that I think wrestled one time as a tag team, but once again, another top 8 team. I think they really dropped the ball here putting the teams together for this tournament.
That's an understatement. Half those teams don't even belong in there. It's just, when you look at that, you just think, okay, they're setting this up to get to a point, and you have the Midnight Express come back, and you announce them by put them up on a graphic saying they're going to be in a match, and then you don't even mention them by name. It made absolutely no sense to me. This tournament, I was excited. I get excited for tournaments. They're cool, and I like to see them, beginning to end. But when I seen that bracket, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, are you serious?
Right. And if you notice, there are some major missing tag teams from this tournament. That includes both Varsity Club tag teams, of course, Sullivan and Spivey, and then Doc and Rotunda, who are the former World Tag Team Champions. It's led to believe that the reason none of them could participate is because they're all suspended and because they were all involved in the cause of the vacancy of the World Tag Team titles. So no Varsity Club members here, but Kevin Sullivan comes out for a promo anyway, says the club should have never been stripped of the belts. Then he insulted the collegiate Big Eight by saying no one that comes from those colleges can take orders. Jim Ross notes that Dr. Death Steve Williams was from the Big Eight Conference and questions Sullivan if he's referencing Dr. Death, and Sullivan says this a couple times throughout the promo. I found it kind of comical the way he would do it. He says, I'm not a name dropper, Ross. I'm not going to tell you who I'm talking about, but he blatantly was talking about Dr. Death Steve Williams, and I guess Sullivan refers to this entire thing as a plan, I don't know, created by Jim Herd, created by the NWA, Ted Turner, Dr. Death, I'm not sure what, but he blames somebody for creating this plan to disband the Varsity Club, which if it was anybody's plan, it would be Kevin's plan because he's the one that did the run-in and caused this whole fiasco to begin with.
Yeah, it's one of those things that makes absolutely no sense. I was really enjoying the Varsity Club. I thought they still had some legs on them, especially when they added Spivey to the group. It's unfortunate. This is how they just get broken up. Just a promo, and then they don't even get added to the tournament. And yeah, it's starting to get bad as far as this tag team division is going, as far as the booking. Seems like they don't really know what to do. Injuries and things like that, and then just a weak division. I know it gets better by the end of the year, but right now it's pretty rough. It's pretty terrible.
Yeah, over the next few months, things will pick back up in the tag team division, but they're definitely rebuilding here as far as the tag division goes, and kind of a lame way to disband the club and turn Doc face. And how did Doc cost them the belts anyways, like Sullivan's alluding to? He was part of the match. He didn't do a job. Sullivan and Spivey are the ones that ran in, caused the DQ, attacked Nikita, and had the belts stripped. So, I don't know. It's one of those instances where the heel's putting a narrative on something that makes absolutely no sense, but nobody's going to question it because we're moving on so fast. Before Sullivan leaves, he's asked about the Flair Funk situation, which we're going to see this played out ad nauseum over the next several weeks, where every babyface, it seems like every babyface and every heel that comes out and talks about their own agendas still have to reference the Funk Flair situation. Sullivan sided with Funk here. I think he kind of had a little respect for Flair, said Flair's like the greatest wrestler of all time, but Flair is the one that caused this issue, and Funk's going to reign supreme here, basically.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that Flair probably needs to hang it up. Shouldn't be coming back for Funk. Yeah, it's almost like Dusty booking, where Dusty always had to have his name in the promos with everybody. It didn't matter if he was doing anything with him or not. That's what it feels like here. And I get the importance of the angle, and you really want to get it over as your top angle. But by the end of these shows, I'm so tired of seeing the Terry Funk, Ric Flair angle from WrestleWar. I'm so tired of seeing it. It worked. It's fine. I don't mind it, but that's what Fast Forward's for.
And it looks like Teddy Long is not long gone, because we get a promo here from Teddy Long and Jim Ross. Jim Ross kind of gets snide with him to begin with, but Teddy's going to introduce his very first protege, his very first wrestler in his stable. And I got a soundbite of that right here.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to World Championship Wrestling. And to show you that our heart's in the right place, we talk to everybody out here, even the people in the ranks of the unemployed, as is Teddy Long right now. But I know that you've got something, I'm sure, that you apparently feel is important to tell the fans.
Well, the first thing I want to say, I want you to make these people be quiet while I'm talking. You understand? I'm out here to say one thing. 2 weeks ago, Jim Herd was out here telling the people that Teddy Long is long gone. Well, let me make something clear. Teddy Long ain't long gone, and I won't be long gone. Now, I've got a little surprise for you, Mr. Ross, and when I show you this, then you're going to see that Teddy Long is going to be around for a long time. Now, I brought a piece of videotape. I didn't trust you to give it to the director. I took it to him myself. Let's see the video.
Can't figure it out. Ever since I was a small boy growing up, walking around the fields, walking around my little town, people would always be running up to me, jeering me, aggravating me, saying, "You're so different. What's wrong with you? There's something wrong with you." I can't take that. I don't need that. I didn't do nothing. I was just trying to be myself. After all these years, People want to come after me. They want to ridicule me. They want to tear me down. You know something? You people never should have put me away. You never should have put me away. Because now it's time. You got to look back at me. And I'm here. I'm not going nowhere. I'm here. And now you people will pay for the day that I took all the abuse.
Well, I don't know where you found that guy, but he's sick. He needs some help.
Hey, let me tell you one thing right now. The same thing happened to that guy is the same thing that happened to me. He was wrongfully misjudged. You understand that? Now, Norman is a childhood friend of mine. You understand what I'm saying? And don't you worry, I won't let the cat out of the bag, but you'll be hearing from Teddy Long, and that's all I've got to say, Mr. Ross.
Well, good. I'll be hearing from you. Once you take a hike, we'll hear from you later. Fans, let's go back up to Rhubarb Jones.
And we basically got two promos for the price of one there. Teddy Long, and then the man we learned to become known as Norman, who was Mike Shaw, and he had come highly praised at this point, believe it or not. Had a match of the year type matches with Owen Hart and Stampede Wrestling at one point in the 1980s. Went on to do the Karachi Vice Muck and Scene character there, and also did that in Global. At one point, he was one of those big guys that could really move around, believe it or not, again. But by this point, I'm questioning that a little bit. And now as for the character, the premise is okay. He was tormented as a kid. He's been a mental patient. Now he's been released apparently from wherever the hell he's been, under Long's care, I'm presuming. He's gone nuts and he's looking for revenge. It's like a Full Metal Jacket style character. That's where it ends for me. The premise is okay. The delivery's atrocious. Terrible, terrible acting by Norman. Terrible makeup under his eyes, the black bags or whatever you want to call that underneath his eyes. Just like it couldn't have been worse. Like the cheapest effects of all times in wrestling history. And of course, if you listen to the promo, he's talking normal, then a noise happens, and he makes this like cheap, half-ass, going crazy sound, and turns around. And when he turns back, his hair is all messed up, and he's got these terrible-looking shoe polish bags under his eyes, and he's crazy now. He's crazy Norman, and it was bad.
Yeah, and it doesn't get any better. This was terrible. I enjoyed, from what I've seen of Mike Shaw, like in Global, when he was in that Muck and Sing character. I thought his promos were really good there. The in-ring work wasn't the best in Global. I haven't seen the Stampede stuff. I don't even know if it's out there, but I'd be interested to see that, especially with somebody like Owen Hart, but that's beside the point. This vignette was terrible. The promo wasn't very good. It seemed like he was lost, and I get he's playing a character, but he just felt lost even when he's talking about what people did to him. I was told long ago, and I get it, it's not his story, but I was told long ago, if you tell a story about your childhood or your family or something, you should remember it. You know it. It's your story. And I get it. This was probably just thrown at him, like, hey, cut a promo. This is what's going on. So he's just not there yet, but he doesn't get any better going forward either. So I'm not a fan of this. It's terrible. It's a hokey gimmick, and it does absolutely nothing for me. And Teddy Long gets fired. He's out scouting all these people. Then all of a sudden he ends up with this dude. It didn't make much sense as far as the booking goes either. So just bad. Waste of time.
And, the slogan right now is, "This is the NWA, we wrestle." And at the exact same time the slogan comes out, now we're being introduced to the dynamic dudes. Now Norman, the ding-dongs are coming in. So I'm thinking stuff like this probably turned off a lot of some of the NWA diehards at this point.
Yeah, and you also got the nerdy girl ringside for Rick Steiner. So, yeah, a lot of different characters and gimmicks coming into town when the slogan, I really like this slogan. It's better than Where the Big Boys Play. I always thought that was stupid as hell. But the NWA We Wrestle, it's very simple. This is what we do here. We wrestle. You turn it on, and all of a sudden you got, like you said, the dudes. You got Norman, ding-dongs, all sorts of crazy gimmicks going on. It's like, this is the WWF, just a cheaper, scaled-down version of it.
Right.
And I'm with you, man. I bet you a lot of diehards are like, what the hell happened to my NWA?
And what the hell happened to Tom Branch and Dwayne Bruce? They wrestled the Road Warriors. Paulie dangerously attempts to join commentary here, but the LOD get in the ring and they murder their opponents in about 15 seconds. Hawk clotheslines Branch, I think, Paulie got one sentence out before the Roadies match ended. So Paulie said he had to go. He had to go take a phone call. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Road Warriors just murdered Branch real quick, and then we go into a Road Warriors promo. They're looking to get their tag titles back. They have some words for the SST. They don't fear the SST, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more of them too in the weeks to come here. We get a couple of interesting segments involving Kevin Sullivan and Paulie Dangerously here over the next couple episodes of TV, and it starts right here. We're shown highlights of what Kevin Sullivan supposedly did to Rick Steiner's arm at WrestleWar 89. Of course, Rick Steiner's out, so it looks like Scott Steiner is here in the NWA to avenge his brother's injury. And with no fanfare, Scott Steiner just randomly appears. We haven't seen him since, Chi-Town Rumble. He made a one-off as Rick Steiner's corner man. Scott Steiner randomly reappears here as a wrestler in the ring here, taking on Kevin Sullivan. And there's really no fanfare to it or anything. It's not built up. It's just, oh, here's Scott Steiner. It's as if it never went away. Oddly enough, Kevin Sullivan's accompanied to the ring in this match by Paulie Dangerously, which made absolutely no sense unless Paulie was going to begin managing him. And well, I picked up a little more on that in another episode of TV here coming up too. But getting into the match, Scott looked good right away. I thought a lot of power and agility, showed some good offense. Paulie distracts Scott. Sullivan pitches Scott over the top rope. What should have been a disqualification. Even the announcers questioning why the hell is this not a disqualification. Varsity Club are under suspension, we learned during this match. So that means supposedly Dr. Death, Dan Spivey, Mike Rotunda, all under suspension. My question is, why the hell is Kevin Sullivan not under suspension then?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. The varsity clubs, all of them, it's not just the ones you don't want to have on TV or trying to make up an excuse for where they're at. So, yeah, there's a lot of holes in this booking. And I don't know if that's because it's a committee and certain people are working on certain things and they're letting stuff slip through the cracks or what the deal is. But there's a lot of holes in just that are starting to pop up. At first, it wasn't very noticeable, but now there's a lot of holes there that you can kind of see. Makes no sense.
Finish sees Scott Steiner run shoulder first into the ring post. Kevin Sullivan grabs him in what looked kind of like a back suplex into a cradle for the win in 3 minutes, 16 seconds. But Sullivan attacks Scott with a chair post match, and the decision is reversed. Scott Steiner winds up winning the match by DQ. Not the best debut for someone the caliber of a Scott Steiner. It felt like an afterthought, honestly. And Eddie Gilbert comes out to check on Scott post-match. So, yeah, it just if this was Scott Steiner's debut, it fell real flat for me.
Yeah, no hype, no nothing. Like you said, no fanfare. And then he comes out and he has to get a win by them reversing the decision. I get it. He's not like, we know what Scott Steiner becomes and what the Steiner brothers become. So he's not that at this point. But, man, just look at this guy. He has it all already. Look, he can fly in the ring. He knew anything in the ring at that point, and it's just very flat. He's just another guy. He's like a jobber almost, just a jacked up jobber. So, yeah, it didn't make any sense to me at all.
We see the Dynamic Dudes Ico music video once again, and before we're treated to a pre-tape of a Ricky Steamboat promo that he cut post-WrestleWar at the arena still. He says he's not ashamed of his performance or losing the title to Ric Flair, tips his hat to Flair here because of course he does, that family man. Steamer says he's ready to wrestle anyone to become number one contender again, but I'm pretty sure he's still the number one contender. I have to check into the top 10 on that, but he just lost the belt, so that didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Anyways, I guess the point is he's open to wrestling anyone to get another shot at Ric Flair. He's also not ashamed of the short time he had the belt. And, like Ronnie Garvin, that was a bad thing when Ronnie Garvin had the belt for a short time because nobody wanted to do that because that would discredit them as a wrestler, even though Ricky Steamboat does it here. And Dave Meltzer puts it over so it's just interesting and intriguing how Meltzer's shit changes from wrestler to wrestler.
Yeah. Steamboat, yeah, we get it. He went on to have a bunch of 5-star matches with Ric Flair during his run, but the ratings were the worst they've ever been on TBS. They had the lowest rated Clash. Pay-per-view buy rates are falling each pay-per-view that Steamboat headlined and all that. I don't think any of that happened with Ronnie Garvin. He says Ronnie Garvin killed the business at that point. So, like you said, man, it's just a bunch of horse shit by Meltzer.
Yeah, and I'm not going to sit here and say that Ronnie Garvin is Ricky Steamboat in the ring, but Ronnie Garvin was a better promo, and Ronnie Garvin was, he was over. I mean, Steamboat was getting booed out of the building to some degree because more of it's not because he's Ricky Steamboat, but because of the character that they implemented him with.
And I will say too, Garvin, just two things about Garvin. He was over, like you said, and the crowd was loving it when he was getting the upper hand on all the horsemen. And two, like, he's believable. I'm not saying Steamboat isn't, but
Right.
Ronnie Garvin looks like a legit tough guy, and just the way he worked, like the Garvin stomp and then his hands of stone gimmick, it was perfect. And so he was believable, and then he had one of the best segments ever when that hotel room. I love that stuff. That was good stuff. Yeah. So like that was tremendous. When I first saw that, I was like, man, this is excellent. Like JJ selling his ass off and things like that. And like you said, man, Steamboat was getting booed out of the building every week on TV. That's just one of those things Meltzer likes to push, and everybody believes it. It's all a bunch of bullshit. We'll save that for the Power Hour.
We will go on to the closing segment of the show. It's Terry Funk taking on Troy Aldridge. Before the match can start, we get an in-ring promo by Funk before the match. Terry says he's been told he's not worthy of a world title shot, so he'll work his way up from the very bottom, which is Troy Aldridge. Funk gives Troy the option to leave the ring. He's in the ring with a living legend, he tells him, and Funk is also a humanitarian. So he's going to give Troy the option to leave the ring now, but Troy says he still wants to wrestle. So Terry slaps the shit out of him. Funk gives him a second chance, and poor old Troy, he still wants to wrestle. So, yes, Terry slaps the shit out of him even harder. And now there's a third time. Troy has a third option, he gets a third chance. And finally, Troy has been slapped silly, so he agrees he no longer wants to wrestle Terry Funk. And Troy turns his back. Terry shakes his hand, and Troy turns his back to leave the ring, or not. Funk jumps him from behind, beats the living hell out of him. I loved it. Just beat the living shit out of him all over the arena or studio or whatever the hell you want to call it. And we're out of time. We got to go. And Terry Funk's just beating the living crap out of him. Just an awesome segment into the show.
Yeah, I loved it. He dropped him with the pile driver as the show went off the air on the outside. I mean, he brutalized this guy. I'm assuming Funk had a hand in his own storyline here, right?
Yeah,
there's no way.
I'd say that goes without saying. I think Terry just got bullet points, man, and barely that. And I think the rest of it was just called out there. I think he just did whatever he was going to do.
I'm not even talking about that, like how they're booking him as far as like his matches that we'll see going forward, and then just his promos. I'm loving every bit of this. It's way better than Flair Steamboat. The matches probably aren't going to be classics like Flair in the Flair Steamboat regard, but I'm going to be more than ready to watch these two go at it, and I can't wait to see it. So Funk's awesome right here.
Moving on to May 20th, we're at center stage for NWA Pro. Bob Caudle and Lance Russell hosting again, and I love this duo together. I like Lance on Worldwide and Bob Caudle on Pro, but having them together too, big deal for me. Very, very cool. Loved hearing these guys talk. We get the Great Muta taking on Tom Branch, and the match goes like this. Super kick, missed, spin kick, backbreaker, moonsault. Match is over, 30 seconds. Wow.
Yeah, you got too close to Muta. Muta just did that back kick right to his gut, and it was a wrap after that. So, awesome stuff.
We get a promo from both Lance and Bob as they both interview the Great Muta with Gary Hart. They begin to discuss the Dragon Shy match. In World Class, the Dragon Shy match was used by the Great Kabuki, and it typically featured the use of kendo sticks being legal in the match. So that, if anybody's wondering what a Dragon Shy match is, at least that's the original Dragon Shy match. I have no idea what they're going to do with it here in 1989, but this is something Gary Hart concocted back in 82. So I'm assuming this is another Gary Hart idea here for Muta. Not that Muta needs it. It definitely helped Kabuki out. Like I said, other than a nasty-ass kick, Kabuki had nothing in the ring. So giving him a gimmick like that, it worked for Kabuki. Muta doesn't really need something like that. In fact, that hinders Muta. It takes away from all the cool offense Muta has. But almost immediately, Sting comes out to confront Hart and Muta. Sting accepts the challenge, says he has a friend in Japan who will prepare him for the Dragon Shy match. Gary Hart pokes at Sting's chest. Sting shoves him back. This is where Muta steps in between them, and an interesting camera angle made this look really different, really cool, the way the camera angles were being shot outside the ring here. I don't know if you took notice of that. But a fun segment, and I'm not complaining, but this is almost too fast to go into, such an awesome program. But yeah, man, just a really cool segment. But man, I don't know if I want Muta and Sting just this fast. You know what I mean? But yeah, I love the camera angles here too.
Yeah, I think this is the one where I sent you the picture. Sting's like on the middle rope, and is this the one, or was that a Saturday night?
That's another episode, yeah.
Okay.
It may be a pro, but it's another episode.
Okay, yeah, this is the one where Muta had to jump, or Gary Hart had to jump in front of Muta and like was pulling him by the hair. But yeah, the camera angles were great. They were different.
Yeah, it was a little creepy. Hart had his hand in the back of Muta's ass there, back of his tights holding him back. And it's like, dude, get your hand out of there, bro.
I mean, Sting went from having nothing to the Iron Sheik, so I don't know if I kind of agree with you a little bit that it may be too soon for Muta and Sting, but at the same time, I think both of these guys deserve a program together because they deserve to be in there with somebody on the same on that level. Each other deserve that. So,
oh yeah, I'm not against the match. I'm
here
just
for this.
Oh yeah, I'm not against the match at all. It just I don't want to. It's like Muta's first big thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand that. To be honest, I think like Sting could really benefit from working with somebody like Muta at this point. He was still a little green. I mean, he was obviously Sting at this point a little bit, but he fell a little bit. Like he didn't lose any crowd reaction or anything, but he needs to be built back up, and they've protected Muta this whole time. So putting Sting in there with him elevated Sting right back up to where he needed to be, and then obviously it helps Muta being in there with Sting. So I thought this was a great pairing, and I'm super pumped for this.
We go on to another Teddy Long promo. It's the same Norman vignette again, I believe. I love the after the Norman promo airs, Lance Russell asks, "He's for real? Are you kidding me?" Even Lance Russell's not buying this necessarily, but it was funny. I didn't grab a soundbite of it, but I just loved Lance here. But yeah, just I think it was the same Norman vignette as before. We haven't got the second one yet. We go into our next match. It's Ron Simmons taking on Randy Rosen. It's funny how Simmons hasn't turned heel yet, but he seems to only wrestle baby faces every week. Very intriguing. So Teddy Long's out scouting Ron Simmons again. He definitely loves him some Ron. Rose looks good throughout. Simmons misses a diving shoulder block. Randy Rose some really nice looking flying sunset flip off the top rope. First move I've seen Randy hit off the top rope that looked this good. So Rose goes for the pin, but Teddy Long distracts referee Tommy Young. Rose releases the hold to see what the hell's going on. That's when Simmons schoolboys Rose. Ron Simmons gets the win in about 4.5 minutes. It was a good little TV match. Nothing to it.
Yeah, one thing I do want to point out in this match, there's like a screw up. They mistimed something on the outside, but Randy Rose kind of grabbed the post and swung around it and ended up hitting Simmons with the clothesline. Nice improv there by him. It looked really cool. Like he just swung around that post and nailed him with the clothesline. It was pretty cool looking. But other than that, just a basic match there.
It's time for Pedicino Knows, and they reveal the new NWA Top 10. And the big note here for me was Butch Reed goes from number 9 to number 5. He's now above the Great Muta, and I don't know how the hell that happened or how the hell they can even explain that. Butch Reed has done nothing. Butch Reed's been here almost 5 months, and he's done absolutely nothing. Not that it's his fault, but he's done nothing and beat nobody. He lost to Sting at Chi-Town Rumble, yet somehow Reed has moved up to number 5 in the rankings, and it's just really weird. I didn't really understand that or the logic behind that. I know these rankings really don't mean a whole lot, but I just don't know how Reed goes from really having nothing to do and still having nothing to do, but all of a sudden now he's in the upper echelon up there with Muta and Luger. I don't know, it just seems weird.
Yeah, it makes no sense. If you're going to do something, we put some effort into it. Don't debut something and then just totally forget about it. Like, oh shit, we got to do a top 10. Let's do it real quick. Oh, Butchery, let's throw him on there. Put him at number 5. Let's go. That's what it feels like. And then you have guys out there going out there like, I'm not even like Funk's whole gimmick right now is I'm not in the top 10. Why the hell do you want to be? It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. It's just a waste of time, and it's just there. It's one of those things like the rules. You throw them over the top rope, it's a DQ when they need it to be, not all the time. This is just something that they do because they brought it up. Stupid.
And we move into another Terry Funk promo, and here it is.
Hey, listen, it's no picnic for me either out here, but if we're going to get an answer to it, you got to go to the horse's mouth to get it.
You got it, the horse teeth, don't you, on Ric Flair, and the banana nose. You picked up on them both, didn't you, Lance?
Terry, I don't want to hear that conversation. I want to hear you explain to anybody how any sane man can do what you did in the moment of glory of Ric Flair, and there it is. We're looking at it.
I
am not going to explain anything again. Why should I have to explain this? It's self-explanatory. I broke the man's heart. His neck isn't hurt. It's jammed. He's got some quack doctor saying that so he doesn't have to come back and face me again. I heard the vertebrae crunch, but it's not that bad. I've wrestled with worse injuries than Ric Flair right there. It's just the man doesn't have the guts. Now, will you please be quiet? Now, let's go on with it. Let's talk about the future. Forget about the past. Ric Flair is in the past now. He's not in the present. He's in the minor leagues. You're looking here at a major leaguer. That felt good, didn't it? Ric Flair. You know, we're going to talk about major leaguers. Yeah. Ric Flair is not even a minor leaguer now. He's a has-been. I am a major leaguer. I am just like Nolan Ryan, 42, and trying to teach you people what a true hero is today.
Okay, come on.
Now,
Terry, listen, we've got a match up here we've waited for all night long. We've got a rookie challenge, the moment for two young fellas, equal ability. Hey, come on. You've lost our attention, Terry. We want to go to the ring for the official announcement. These young men are getting national.
No, this is
Terry, we've heard all
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a rookie.
And before I get to Terry Funk, man, I just got to point out again, for anybody who thought Lance Russell was like too Memphis-y or there's no way he could handle, the big leagues, he comes in here, man, and he just sounds like he fits in with Terry Funk just the same as he does with Jerry Lawler or Bill Dundee or any of those guys down there. I mean, just Lance Russell never misses a beat here with Terry.
No, he doesn't. He walked in, and it's like he owns the place. He knows exactly what's going on. He's covering everything the way it needs to be covered, and tremendous here. That was just awesome. I was laughing listening to it, Quack Doctor, and I heard it crunch a little bit. It wasn't that bad, and it's just typical Funk, and it was awesome.
Yeah. So at the end of the promo, Lance mentions that we have a rookie challenge in the ring, because that happens all the time here in the NWA. So we have this rookie challenge in the ring between Lee Scott and Dwayne Bruce, and I already feel for Lee Scott, but Funk's not happy. He doesn't like to be interrupted, and he doesn't like being interrupted for rookies. So we get a spotlight on these two youngsters here. The match gets going, and Funk doesn't let it happen. Match goes maybe 30 seconds before being ruled a no contest because Funk interrupts the match because they interrupted his promo. So he's going to take care of these two jabronis the way he sees it. He pile drives Dwayne Bruce on the floor almost immediately. Then Lee Scott, for whatever unknown reason, climbs out to the apron and actually taunts Funk by putting his foot against Funk's chest a couple times, kind of nudging him with his foot. And Funk comes in the ring, and then Lee Scott hightails it out, and Funk chases around ringside before grabbing Scott and pile driving him on the floor as well. And just a fun-ass segment. And I would go back to when he pile drove Dwayne Bruce, picked him up in the pile driver, took about 20 steps backwards before he dropped him. Just hilarious stuff from Terry Funk here. Just wild and crazy. Funk has immediately inserted himself as the top heel here for me. Amazing promos, amazing segments, just that fast.
Yeah, it was great. And that just him stumbling with the pile driver, he's just selling the fact that he is crazy. Like, you don't know what he's going to do. It just adds to it, and it looks so cool with him. Like you said, 20 steps just going backwards, and then he just dumps the guy. That's something he picks up and does going forward a little bit too. So just an awesome segment, a great promo. I thought it was funny. It was serious. It was a little bit of everything. It's just Terry Funk. And to be honest with you, I've never seen him in better shape than I did here. Like, he looked really cut. He has that Hollywood look. He does look Hollywood here, and he carried it over with him to the NWA, and he just looks tremendous. Like, very believable, everything. Like, top flight main eventer from the get-go. I'm so excited to watch more of Funk going forward.
So we go from this Terry Funk angle where he's beating the living hell out of them, murdering these guys, killing them on the floor, pile driving them, breaking their necks, stretching them out. And we go into a Dynamic Dudes Iko Iko video. And I'm just, this reminded me of, and I don't know if you ever heard it, but it was pretty popular back in the day, of the Casey Kasem audio that was released where somebody had given him a story to tell. He used to tell sad stories. Told a story about a little girl's dead dog. And then they make him go into playing an up-tempo, big up-tempo song. and Casey loses it off radio, but the soundtrack's out there. If you've never heard it, you got to listen to it. He starts dropping F. How do you expect me to go from an effing dead dog dedication to an effing up-tempo song?
Now, we're up to our long-distance dedication. And this one is about kids and pets and a situation that we can all understand, whether we have kids or pets or neither. It's from a man in Cincinnati, Ohio. And here's what he writes. Dear Casey, this may seem to be a strange dedication request, but I'm quite sincere, and it'll mean a lot if you play it. Recently, there was a death in our family. He was a little dog named Snuggles, but he was most certainly a part of... Let's start again. I'm coming out of the record. Play the record, okay? Please. See, when you come out of those up-tempo goddamn numbers, man, it's impossible to make those transitions, and then you got to go into somebody dying. You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for, but goddamn it, if we can't come out of a slow record, I don't understand it. Is Don on the phone? Okay, I want a goddamn concerted effort to come out of a record that isn't a fucking up-tempo record every time I do a goddamn death dedication. Now, make it, and I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week. Just last goddamn time, I want somebody to use his fucking brain to not come out of a goddamn record that is, that's up-tempo, and I got to talk about a fucking dog dying.
And it just kind of reminded me of this, because we go from like this serious murdering of these poor job guys right into like Shane and Johnny, like, hey dude, what's up? So it's just poor placement on the show.
Aren't they they're doing the yoga in this video, right?
If this is the Ico video, they're still doing whatever the hell they were doing in that one. The yoga and the jazzercise and shit, that comes with the Don't Worry, Be Happy video.
Oh God. I don't know which one it was, but yeah, terrible, terrible placement. You can't go from something that serious to a Dynamic Dudes vignette. Just terrible.
We get the same Lex Luger insert promo here that we got last week on World Championship Wrestling. Same thing. Again, right at the beginning of the Freebirds match here. Freebirds over Trent Knight and George South. During the match, they announced that Michael Hayes has challenged Luger back or accepted Luger's challenge for the Bad Street Death match. Gordy looked kick-ass again. Hayes isn't any better in the ring, but he seems to have more spunk, even moving around on the apron instead of just standing there. Of course, Michael doesn't wrestle any better, but he does allow his partner to get the win. Gordy with a half crab gets the win on Trent Knight here in about 2.5 minutes. And straight into a Freebirds promo, and I grabbed that audio here, and it's basically Terry Gordy pimping up that Hayes is going to beat Lex Luger, and he also talks about them once again being the greatest tag team, and they're going to be winning the World Tag Team titles. So we can listen to that right here.
They are considered one of the top contenders for the World Tag Team title.
Let me correct you right there. Let me correct you just a second. That's why we are the best. That's why we are the greatest, like I've been saying before. This is something that we're going to win, and nobody can do about it. And like I said before, you know, Lex Luger, he seems to have a problem. Let me tell you something, Lex Luger, there's no way on God's green earth that you can beat this man right here. There's no way, Jack.
Well, I notice you have the U.S. heavyweight title draped over your shoulder. If you think Luger is going to let that go by and unnoticed, brother, you got a better thing. Let me tell you something. He ain't got no choice. I am the undisputed United States heavyweight champion. Within a matter of a few weeks, when the fabulous Freebirds walk back out here, we will be the World Tag Team Champions. Because, understand this, the greatest tag team of all time is back together, and we run every place we've ever been to. And Luger, in the Bad Street matches, I'm going to run you right out of wrestling. Well, there's confidence if I ever heard it.
And I should note that there's no Hiro Matsuda here in these post-WrestleWar Freebird matches. Hiro Matsuda did accompany Hayes to the ring at the pay-per-view, but he hasn't been seen since Terry Gordy returned, so I think we've seen the end of Hiro Matsuda.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're paying attention, you would never know he was even there to begin with.
It's more fodder gone, like the Sheik and the dog. We go into another match. It's Dick Murdoch taking on the Raider, and I think the Raider at this point is Doug Gilbert. Kind of looked like Doug Gilbert's build. Murdoch looked really good here. I loved his punches. Like, I noticed his punches in this match, and just so realistic. Really good at them. And Murdoch plays with the Raiders mask a little bit, but the Brainbuster's back. George Scott's gone, so the Brainbuster's back, and Murdoch gets the win with the Brainbuster here in about 1 minute and 37 seconds. Nothing match. And over to Pedicino Knows. He's still talking about that Grand Slam contest where you can win personal VCR and the THE library of NWA tapes, or you can win free tickets to the Great American Bash. Pedicino also talks about the Flair Funk angle a little bit there. Before we head back to the ring, it's Kevin Sullivan taking on Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, along with Missy Hyatt. That's my first boing of the day. Where's Missy been? The two-men brawl before the bell. Kevin Sullivan chases Missy around ringside. Gilbert jumps on him off the apron. The Samoan SWAT team attack here. And I was just super confused because they just started a feud with the Roadies. They weren't really feuding with Eddie Gilbert, nor Eddie Gilbert and Rick Steiner. Kevin Sullivan's in a feud with Eddie Gilbert. So it's almost like they were helping him. Paulie comes out there. Paulie tosses Nick Patrick while the SST work over Eddie Gilbert. So if you paid attention on the last episode, we saw Paulie dangerously managing Kevin Sullivan. Now we see Sullivan here with the SST and Paulie. It almost felt like they were moving Sullivan into that faction, and then they just kind of move away from it. And you'll see a lot of that here in the next couple of months. A lot of things that look like they're about to happen, and then they just get switched around, especially with the manager's situation.
Definitely looks like that's what they were going with here. But this is another one of those big matches that ends in a DQ to further an angle. You've kind of pointed that out the last few times where the big matches don't have finishes and things like that.
Right.
Another thing that was interesting to me on this one, too, is Eddie Gilbert was a 3-on-1, and he was just left laying. No one came out to help him. Nobody did anything. I mean, where's Scott? Where's Sting? I mean, where's one of them? Nobody came out to even check on him. He's just left laying. And where's the Road Warriors even? So that was interesting to me as well, that they didn't even think to send anybody out there to help him out or just at least check on him after the SST and Sullivan leave.
We see highlights from this weekend's Worldwide show, which has the Road Warriors taking on the SST. The match really, and we'll get to that when we get to Worldwide, but the match only goes a few minutes. The wild brawl between the two teams, and we followed it up with Lance Russell interviewing Paul Ellering, the Road Warriors, and here's that interview.
You know, Lance Russell, it all boils down to this little statement. Paulie, dangerously, you're letting your mouth write checks your bodies aren't going to be able to cash. These two men, the Animal and the Hawk, they've cashed every check in the sport today. They've been on top of the wrestling sport. They've been on top of wrestling. They are the greatest sports attraction in the world today. You've come out here and presented a challenge to a force that is invincible in the sport. You think your men can dethrone us, can take us down from that pinnacle. You think this is just a game that you're going to use us to achieve a level that you want and that you desire. Well, I got news for you, Paul E. This is not a game of jokes. Not with the Animal. Not with the Hawk. This is Darwinism at its finest. This is survival of the fittest. This is not fun and games. You're going against a man that can bench press 600 pounds. A man that can press men that weigh 300 pounds over his head. And your men aren't small men either. I realize that. I know you got a great team. But Paul E., this is war. And in war, we don't take no prisoners. And as Benjamin Franklin said, a man who lives on hope will die fasting. And that is where you are. Your men are like dogs barking after the car. What are they going to do when they get to the car? They're the Cobras, and we're the Mongoose. It's a close fight, but the Mongoose always wins.
You hear it from the Legion of Doom, and boy, I would not want those guys mad at me as they are against Dangerously in the SST.
And Hawk had to get something in there, didn't he?
He absolutely did. It's great. I thought that promo was tremendous. For those people that don't know how good Paul Ellering is, there's your proof. I mean, he was excellent. He's very underrated. Like you said, I think we said it on the Animal podcast, where the roadies were so good by themselves, they didn't necessarily need Paul Ellering. But to me, Paul Ellering just added another element to the group, and he was like the centerpiece for him. Just a great promo. I love the Benjamin Franklin quote there. If you live on hope, you're going to die fasting. So that's tremendous. And he just seemed very intelligent. Just a really, really solid, great promo.
Yeah, Ellering, a very intelligent guy. And I mean, once he became a manager instead of a wrestler, his promos developed quite a bit, and he got really good. If you ever go to watch Mid-South and watch his promos in Mid-South, they're absolutely atrocious. I think he was trying to work a gimmick he just didn't understand himself, almost like a second-rate Billy Graham, superstar Billy Graham type. He certainly had the body for it, but the promos were not there. And he really has changed and developed over the years. And I agree with you that while the roadies don't necessarily need Paul Ellering, as proven in the WWF, he does add something, and particularly, I'm sure from a business standpoint, really helped them in the early years. I don't know that the roadies would have made it without him. So he's definitely an intricate part of the whole Road Warrior package. We closed the show with our first look at Flying Brian Pillman. Flying Brian coming in, music video set to Def Leppard's Rocket song. And here we get a video of Flying Brian wrestling in the ring and flying a helicopter. You get it? Because he's Flying Brian. He's flying a helicopter. Thought it was a terrible pun. I don't know whose idea this was. I don't know if they went and talked to Ted and said, hey, Ted, can we charter your helicopter today? We're going to go film some vignettes. I'm not really sure who came up with this idea, but it was stupid. And if they had just used in-ring action video clips, it would have made it much more effective. And I do remember as a kid watching Brian Pillman videos. I don't remember the helicopter or whatever, but I remember how excited I was for this guy when he came in because the action they showed in the video. So more action from Pillman in the ring would have been much better than watching Flying Brian fly a helicopter. Thought it was really corny.
Yeah, it's very 89-ish. You have somebody the talent of Brian Pillman, just let the action in the ring speak for itself. I mean, goodness, don't overthink it.
And that'll take us into Worldwide for the weekend of May 20th. Jim Ross hosting the show now, so they've apparently moved Bob Caudle and Lance Russell both to Pro. Stupid if you ask me. Too much Jim Ross on TV right now, and Lance and Bob are fine on their own, separated. Maybe because this is Center Stage, although we did see Lance and Bob at Center Stage together, so I don't know why Jim Ross is here hosting Worldwide on his own. He's already doing the World Championship Wrestling show. He needs to stay there. As much as I love Lance and Bob together, and I really, really do, I'd love to see both of these guys hosting their own shows and doing their own things as well. So just too much Jim Ross for me at this point. And he's been all over the main events lately as well. Just too much. And I know there's a bunch of changing coming as far as the hosts of these TV shows go, but right now I'm not digging what they have going on right now the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm not either. I think Meltzer made a comment that part of the issues with the syndication was that the announcers are changing every week. Like, you can't get any consistency. I know part of the appeal for Wrestling Challenge was, Bobby and Gorilla, you knew they were going to be on there. You're going to get some banter. It's going to be entertaining. And you look forward to that every week because the matches aren't going to be that great. And then the same with Superstars. You got Jesse and Vince every week. You look forward to that. Here, you have no idea who you're going to get. It's going to be different every week, and there's just no consistency to it. It just feels like a different show every week, and that ruins it.
Yeah, they tried to plug Kevin Sullivan in there with Bob Caudle on Pro, and now it looks like Kevin Sullivan's more active than he has been in the last couple of years in the ring as far as TV's been the last couple of weeks. So things are just getting changed around again, and I'm not really digging what they've got going on right now. We kicked the show off, though, with Sting taking on Ron Simmons. That's a pretty cool match from Center Stage. TV Championship match. Sting defends. Fun back-and-forth stuff here. Ron Simmons is still frustrated, but he hasn't made the turn yet. Sting does the top rope body block to get the win in about 3.5 minutes. Protecting Simmons is fine here. I'm fine that they didn't put him in the Scorpion Deathlock and have him submit. Makes complete sense, but I could have done without Sting using Steamboat's finisher again. It seems like too many people are going for the high cross body block when Steamboat's been using it. So I'm not really a big fan of that, but Sting did make it his own. He did wind up using it quite a bit over the next several years, so I guess everybody's kind of used to it at this point. I'm just a firm believer in not using other finishers that are on the same roster.
Yeah, I think so too. And also Sting's been using that as just like a go-between move or a setup move where he wasn't even pinning people. He's just doing a crossbody to get it or getting one counts out of it. And then all of a sudden Simmons is getting pinned to it. So definitely stay away from Steamboat's move for sure.
Sting goes ringside with Jim Ross for a promo. He talks the Dragon Shy match. Says he doesn't really care what it is. Gary Hart and Muta come over. Gary says he considers Sting to be the best thing going in the NWA today and the best athlete the NWA has to offer. Why he wants the American public to see the best opponent they can have, Muta can have. Hart says he'll make a lot of money off of Sting's body before he destroys him. This is where we learn the rules of the Dragon Shine match, and apparently there's going to be a kendo stick placed in the middle of the ring, and the wrestlers will go for the kendo stick. The first person to get it will be able to use it. Kendo stick's legal in the match, so Sting says he can't wait, and he'll see them in the ring. What did you think about this?
I thought it was really good. Gary Hart was pretty solid when he was working with Sting. There's really none of the racial undertones or stupid stuff that he was saying for like Dick Murdoch and all that. This is just more straight to the point, your basic bad guy, good guy type feud. Or maybe not even just bad guy versus good guy. It's just to see who's the best. Gary Hart clearly thinks Sting's the best in the NWA. Well, I'm going to give my best against what he thinks is the best to take that spot. So really good segment here. The Dragon Shine match sounds a little weird. So you have the stick in the middle of the ring. So the bell rings, you just run after it. I mean, to me, I thought initially it sounded like it was on a pole and they had to take it off the turnbuckle or something. So, I don't know. Interesting. I'm assuming it changes, or do they even do it on TV, this match? I don't think they do. I don't remember ever seeing it.
I'm pretty sure there's an Eddie Gilbert Muta Dragon Shine match at some point.
Okay.
Sometime this summer. I vaguely remember it sometime during the summer of '89.
I don't remember a Sting and Muta Dragon Shine match, so that's why I was curious. Yeah, just it was good. I enjoyed it.
We go into our next match, tag team action with Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert teaming with Scott Steiner. They're accompanied to the ring by Missy Hyatt. They take on Secret Service Jack Victory and the Masked Enforcer. Remember, Rick is out for a month, so Scott's here, which means no U.S. tag team titles on the line. I think Secret Service has run its course at this point. They've already mentioned the New Zealand Militia being part of the World Tag Team title tournament, but that's how Jack is introduced here. He's still wearing that god-awful looking green janitor's outfit or whatever the hell that's supposed to be. Jim Ross calls the Enforcer the Raider during the entire match for whatever reason. Eddie Gilbert does the old Fargo strut at one point during the match, and Scotty's in the ring with him. And so he looks at Scott and he points to Scott to do the strut, and Scott does the most white boy awful attempt at a strut I've ever seen. It was really pathetic, but funny.
Yeah, I had that down. Scott tries to do a strut, and it looks absolutely ridiculous. But it's so bad, it's funny. It's one of those things. Yeah, I think we need to snag that one and throw it up on our Twitter for sure. Great stuff.
Steiner hits his famous pivoting belly-to-belly, ends the match in about a minute and a half. Quick match, good stuff. Scott Steiner's looking good here. Off to Pedicino nose. We're finally moving things around. It's not just about hyping the upcoming free prizes and things like that. We get localized promos here for New Haven, Connecticut. I noticed on this card they're selling Lex Luger versus Ricky Steamboat, who are both baby faces at this point, in a number one contenders match. We'll see what happens there. And speaking of Lex Luger, we go off to the Lex Luger promo again. It's the repeat promo from last week's World Championship Wrestling and this week's Pro. And you'll notice every time this airs, it's an insert promo over an entrance of the Fabulous Freebirds. And I put that together myself. I'm thinking they're doing this to cover up the Leonard Skinner Freebird song as best they can anyway. That's my guess.
That's what it sounds like to me, because it's the same promo over and over. And it's just only when they come out.
So we get the Freebirds here over Bucky Siegler and Greg Evans. Same routine. Hayes takes some bumps early from the job guys, tags the Gordy. Terry comes in, murders him. Hayes tags back in this time. DDT on Siegler ends it in about a minute 47. And that's followed up by another Freebirds promo. It's more of the same stuff. Hayes talks about going after Luger, beating Luger in a bad street match. Gordy still talks about them being the next World Tag Team Champions. It's nothing new.
Yeah, I will say ever since Music City Showdown, Hayes he's actually been doing some bumps. Like he took a backdrop in one of these matches and falling for the clotheslines and things like that to the jobbers. I know they're just doing the same formulaic match to get Gordy in there to destroy him, but it seems like getting that U.S. title has kind of rejuvenated Hayes a little bit to where he's actually willing to do some bumps.
Yeah, I wonder if
that doesn't last very long.
I wonder if it's a combination of getting that belt, but also having his brother back, having Terry Gordy back out there. That might have rejuvenated him as well. Just having Terry Gordy back in the fold because they'd known each other since they were teenagers and worked together for such a long period of time. I'm sure Hayes had to love having his brother back by his side like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We go into another tag team match. This one's the Dynamic Dudes, Johnny Ace, Shane Douglas, taking on Lee Scott and the Raider. The Dudes are still getting pops for now. They're still over.
Jim Ross is doing his damnedest to get these guys over.
Oh, yeah.
And I know he created it, but he like does Vince McMahon with Shawn Michaels when these guys come out. And it's terrible.
Yeah, it doesn't always work, and it definitely doesn't work here with this gimmick. The Dudes with a double atomic drop and a double slingshot back suplex on Scott. They call that move the wipeout now. Dudes get a win in 1 minute and 39 seconds. Lame, but you can tell they're really trying, and that's really all I can say about it. We move into a Terry Funk promo, this time on Worldwide. And guess what? I grabbed that too, and here it is.
Right here you see me driving Ric Flair's head into the table. Right here the man died. That's right. Ric Flair died right there. He didn't die of a broken neck like you're fixing to see here. What Ric Flair died from is a broken heart because I broke the man's heart right here. I broke his will. I showed the man exactly what he is. Nothing more than a banana-nosed, horse-toothed pervert that does not deserve to ever be world champion. Whatever happened to the real heroes of the world? The John Waynes, the Audie Murphys, the Wallace Berries. Well, you're looking at one right here. Not some idiot that looks like Barbara Bush in drag. You are looking at the new contender. That's right. You don't even have me in the top 10. Why am I not in the top 10? You have Rick Steiner in the top 10. He's living proof that Roe versus Wade would be, if they change that Supreme Court decision, they are making a severe mistake. That's the kind of people that you have representing the NWA. But I am not with the NWA. You read, this is the NWA. We wrestle. Well, I don't wrestle for the NWA. I don't wrestle for Ted Turner. I don't wrestle for anybody else. I wrestle for myself. And please, just let me tell you that Ric Flair has a broken heart and he will never come back.
Fans, we'll be back. Don't go away.
Not a bad promo yet from Terry Funk, and this is another good one. Rick Steiner was never in the top 10, but who am I to question Terry Funk? The Roe versus Wade line was just absolutely insane. Interesting topics to bring up, shooting jackasses and things like that. So it's just funny to hear another Terry Funk promo here, another bunch more good lines here. I don't know if the microphone picked me up. I apologize if it did, but I didn't realize he had called Ric Flair a pervert in the middle of the promo, and I laughed there because I didn't hear that the first time when I recorded the audio. So yeah, just another good Terry Funk promo.
Yeah, that was awesome. I was laughing pretty hard when I first heard it. The Supreme Court line was so far over the top, but man, it's crazy what you could get away with in 1989. Just everything about the promo was awesome. The only thing I don't like is he's like, "Why I'm not in the NWA top 10?" And then towards the end of the promo, he's like, "I don't even wrestle for the NWA. I'm here on my own." So he kind of just contradicts himself by the end of the promo. But at the end of the day, that's just one small thing that you can look over and just enjoy Terry Funk at his finest.
And so we go from that Terry Funk promo to a Teddy Long promo, which I also didn't mind. I know last week you didn't necessarily care. I think it was last week. You didn't necessarily care for Teddy Long's debut as a heel promo, but I think he's gotten a lot better here really fast, and I've enjoyed all of his stuff here so far. What I don't enjoy are these Norman vignettes, and I think this is the original Norman vignette aired here again with Teddy Long doing a new interview here with Jim Ross. And then we take that right into a match. Hacksaw Butch Reed with a win over Cougar Jay here, diving shoulder block in just 1 minute and 14. And that takes us to the big match on the show. Samoan SWAT team taking on the Road Warriors. SST jumped the Roadies before the bell. SST no sell, getting their heads slammed down into the mat. Hawk comes back with a double clothesline, both of them, but then runs into a double super kick from the SST. Animal winds up getting posted outside. SST hit their finisher, Fatu's flying splash on Hawk, which shocked the hell out of me that they did that. But of course, Hawk no-sells the splash, Animal no-sells the post, and they wind up rushing into the ring and nailing Fatu with the Doomsday device. Samu breaks it up by headbutting the referee to prevent the 3 count. Instead of just stopping the pin, he headbutts the referee. Meanwhile, we get a second ref running in there, and the roadies go flinging him outside of the ring, so winds up being a double disqualification. Match only goes about 2 minutes and 20 seconds, so both the roadies and the SST put down the referees here.
Yeah, so does that mean they get suspended?
Well, no titles were on the line, see, so it's okay.
Oh, okay. It's one of those things. I guess the rules are enforced when they need to be.
We see that repeatedly throughout these shows.
Yeah, and then it's just another big match that ends in a DQ to further an angle. Like that seems to be their MO, and it's starting to wear out its welcome, I think.
Jim Ross brings Kevin Sullivan in for a promo after that. Ross right away says that the Varsity Club is virtually no more. So Ross is basically confirming that the Varsity Club have split up. Grab the promo here if you guys want to take a listen. Here it is.
And the Varsity Club virtually no more. You're not even in the tournament. You know, Jim Ross, I'm going to make it real clear. Did you ever have a plan that you knew couldn't fail? Well, I did. I had a plan in Nashville that couldn't fail except for one mistake I didn't factor in. One problem I didn't factor in. You know, in the Big 8, they don't put out any brain surgeons, obviously. That's not true at all. It certainly is true. First of all, when you go to a Big 8 school, you're not an academic genius. You're recruited for one thing, and that's brawn only. There is no brains of anybody that goes to Big 8. I laid out the game plan, turned the page. Everybody else understood where we're going except one simpleton. He's talking about Dr. Death Steve Williams being a simpleton. I don't like to drop names. I know you're from Oklahoma, so you should understand this real easy. They don't know how to go past Ned in the first reader. The game plan was laid out. There should be no World Tag Team Champion tournament if he had followed a game plan. Real simple. We got ruined on this because one man couldn't follow a game plan. Well, I don't agree with that whatsoever.
So Sullivan and Spivey run out and attack Nikita like crazy, and somehow it's Dr. Death's fault he didn't follow the game plan. I don't know what the hell the game plan was.
Yeah, I have no idea either. Sounds like one of those things where the heels just blaming somebody else for their problems instead of taking responsibility for their own actions. I guess that's what they're going for. That's the only really way I know how to explain it. Yeah, kind of very, very underwhelming ending to the Varsity Club. Kind of stinks.
And we'll close this show out with Flying Brian once again flying that helicopter off into the sunset. And with the sunset comes the nighttime episode of World Championship Wrestling for the NWA for May 20th. This also was recorded on May 9th, so it's still post WrestleWar, but it's been about 11 days since we recorded this show. This episode should be noted that it didn't air until about 9:20 that evening due to an Atlanta Braves game, so it was coming on pretty late at night.
Did it affect the ratings? Do you know?
I have no idea about ratings. No
I don't
idea.
know if it popped up in the Observer. That has to be difficult during baseball season.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
You have no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah, they kind of get it fixed here in June, which I got notes for the next episode on that. So we kick off the show. We learn Ric Flair has been released from Traction and is back home healing. Jim Ross says he'll be heading to Charlotte to speak with Flair's doctor later this week. Why not Flair? Why his doctor? And it's off to the ring with Rhubarb Jones. TV title match kicks off the show. Jack Victory, Secret Service Jack Victory. Solid little match, surprisingly. Sting wins with the crossbody again in about a minute and a half. Sting is blown up in 90 seconds of action because he comes over for a promo here. We got Gary Hart over here cutting a promo, and Sting comes over, and Sting is blown up in the ring. Gary Hart's cutting a promo with Jim Ross on the floor. Sting's in the ring rebutting. This is what the segment you were talking about where Great Muta comes out and Sting stands on the middle rope while Muta climbs onto the guardrail and blows mist up towards Sting. Really cool sight. You actually grabbed an image of that. I'm going to put that up on Twitter.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, I love those things like that when it's just a different angle. Like that side shot they have that we can see the whole ring, but you also can see a little bit of the entrance and the guardrail that leads up to like the interview the stand. It's just really, really good. And it's a different angle that you don't see from wrestling those are the type of shots that I look for, and this was just perfect. Sting's on the middle rope, Muta's on the rail, and he just blows mist, and Sting kind of leans back so he doesn't get hit with it, and it's just awesome. Definitely have to check it out on our Twitter.
Really cool
Tremendous.
visual. Yeah, really cool visual, and I love the back and forth between Sting and Gary Hart. Sting was pretty good on his end, held up his own, but this was probably easily the best Gary Hart promo I may have ever heard. And I'm not saying he hasn't cut better promos back in his heyday, but this, like you said, it's a far cry, so far away, night and day from the nonsense he was doing with Orton and Murdoch. He actually is just cutting a nice heel promo here that Muta's just the better wrestler, and really intense, too, from Gary Hart, not just that normal monotone voice that he normally does. Really good stuff here from Gary Hart. I got to praise him here.
Yeah, when you can just stick to the script, so to speak, as far as focus on wrestling and not all the other stupid crap he likes to talk about, it's pretty good. I mean, that's kind of what he's doing here, and I'm assuming he's just forced to, because what can you say bad about Sting? He probably doesn't have anything on him yet.
It's promo time with Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. Gilbert starts things off by commenting on the Ric Flair-Terry Funk situation because it seems to be what everyone's doing. Eddie says he hopes that Ric Flair comes back and shuts Funk's mouth, and my thought here was, didn't Funk just break Eddie's face like 3 months ago? So my how the people
Flair.
Forget things, yeah.
You said Funk broke his face.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Flair broke his face like 3 months ago. It's funny how they forget things so fast in the world of wrestling. Oh, yeah. So we're sent to a video of Rick Steiner doing therapy on his arm with Dr. Patrick Harvey. They show the actual injury to Rick's bicep. You see all the bruising underneath from the injury because it was legit. Rick should be cleared in about 2 weeks, says the doctor, so we should see Rick back on TV sometime in mid-June, I'd imagine. And
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it is. And
you think like an NFL player is out for a year with a torn bicep. This dude's coming back to wrestle full time in 3-4 weeks. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a Steiner. What you gonna do? And we go from that Rick Steiner video to Scott Steiner in the ring. Scott's accompanied by Missy Hyatt. He takes on Tom Branch here. Scotty has Hot Stuff as his theme from Donna Summer. This match is 4 drop kicks and a belly-to-belly suplex, just that fast, and Scotty gets the win. Really good-looking drop kicks from Scott Steiner, too, and his belly-to-bellies are just insane. Really good shit here.
Yeah, you can already see the talent that Scott has. I can't wait till Rick's healthy to see these two together. It's crazy how fast Scott took off as far as just showing what he's going to be made of.
Kevin Sullivan tries to attack Scott after the match with the chair, but Eddie Gilbert's out there quick to make the save with his own chair, so nothing happens to Scott or Eddie. But Sullivan's still out there trying to get at the Steiners, get at Eddie Gilbert, so we're still seeing some tendencies there of Sullivan still being involved in that Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner type feud, and which has been ongoing since last year now. And it's off to a new highlight video of Flying Brian, and it's now this one's set to the "Oh Yeah" song, and so this one has Brian Pillman. It's a little better. I'm not necessarily a female, and I'm not into dudes, but it's still better than him flying a helicopter. We see Pillman in the ring mixed with Pillman working out of the gym, and he looks incredible, really great shape. So got me excited to see him get in the ring and do some things. And I just thought it was funny because we get this song, and it always makes me think of the old Twix commercial. It's just, I don't know if it's showing my age or whatever, but it felt like that commercial was on the air forever. And I marked out because during this episode, they air the Twix commercial with this song. So I heard this song twice in the same show. First the Pillman version and then the Twix version.
Yeah, I remember hearing the Twix commercial. That's what the first thing I thought of is the candy bar when I heard it. So they chose a good song, let's be honest. I mean, that song is ingrained in people's heads just from that commercial. So they're like, why not use it?
I think that and the Ferris Bueller movie. But I always reference the Twix commercial.
Same here.
And we go to a promo with the Party Patrol. The Party Patrol have arrived now. It's Johnny and Davey Rich. Johnny Rich is actually the cousin of Wildfire Tommy Rich. Davey Rich, no relation that I'm aware of. Davey Rich is actually David Haskins. Both guys did some work in Memphis. David Haskins actually wrestled as himself, did a lot of jobs in Memphis, even in the 90s, and did jobs on WWF TV in the 90s as well. I always thought Haskins, when his hair was cut short, really looked an awful lot like Jerry Lawler. But here we have the Party Patrol and their first and maybe only promo in the NWA. Here they are.
Two outstanding young athletes, Johnny and Davey Rich. They're a tremendous tag team. They have made a comment and a statement to all the teams entered in the World Tag Team Title Tournament. Let's hear now from the Brothers Rich. For you people that don't know, I'm Johnny Rich, and this is Davey Rich, the Rich Cousins. We call ourselves the Party Patrol, and we're tag teaming up to go on against anybody out there that wants to take us on. You know, we got here, they're having a big tag tournament going on, but you know, we got here just a little bit too late. But we still want to issue a challenge right now to the winner of that tournament that we'll take you on anytime and any place. Just give us a chance.
That's right. You know, on the Music City Showdown the other day, what Terry Funk did to Ric Flair, well, all we got to say about that is get well soon, champ.
That's right. Good luck.
And so Jim Ross calls them the Brothers Rich. 5 seconds later, they announce that they're the Rich Cousins. I mean, they are from the South. I'm just saying. But, yeah, it's just, I don't know if JR flubbed that line or what was going on. But, yeah, they were sold usually as cousins down in Alabama and other places they work together. I wanted to laugh at the fact that they're mentioning that they missed the tag team tournament like they deserved a spot. But then I looked around and I see New Zealand Militia and Ron Simmons and Ranger Ross, and it's not so much a far cry from reality that the Rich Cousins could have easily been plugged into that tournament. Maybe it made more sense than some of the other teams involved.
Yeah, at least they're an actual team, and it's funny, these guys get a promo or something, Midnight Express don't. Makes no sense, but whatever.
Well, what's really odd to me is just that they randomly pop up like this, and I don't know that we ever even see them team up in the ring.
Yeah, I know one of them has a singles match, I think, against Terry Funk later on, but I haven't seen him yet.
And then obviously they're even told to sell the Ric Flair story as they wish Flair to get well, which takes us into the Terry Funk match. Terry Funk here wrestling Eddie Guerrero. I'll never forget the first time I saw this match on tape in the mid-'90s in the old tape trading world. I wasn't aware prior to seeing it that was going to be on the tape. That wasn't like a big sell or anything from anyone at the time. I got the tape, I put it in, I popped it in, I go, holy shit, that's Eddie Guerrero. You're wrestling Terry Funk, and of course, Guerrero is basically the job guy here, but he gets in a lot of offense because they realize he has talent, and his brothers are also very talented. His father, a legend as well, Gory Guerrero. So I think Terry had no problem giving Eddie some offense here. He looked pretty good. Obviously, he wasn't ready for the big times yet, but he really looked good. I'm sure he'd been training since he was able to walk. So. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this was awesome. I remember, like you, the first time I seen it, Eddie was well established when I first seen it, because I seen it maybe mid-2000s when I ended up getting it. So I was just, when the show popped up, I was like, oh, damn, that's Eddie Guerrero, like you said. And it was even more so for me because he was well established by that point to be, a top talent type guy. So, yeah, it was really awesome to see this. And like you said, man, it's awesome of Funk. He's in the middle of this, like, destroying everybody in a minute and a half type run. And he gave Eddie quite a bit of offense and let Eddie showcase some things. And this match is really, really entertaining. It doesn't go long, but it's definitely one everybody should go check out and see for sure. It's great. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, and the story here is Eddie frustrates Funk early on, lands some high flyer type offense. Terry blatantly throws Eddie at one point over the top rope. I mean, blatantly. Right in front of the referee, picks Eddie up in like a power slam position and just launches him over the top rope. And even Jim Ross can't ignore it. He's like, why is he not being disqualified? It's obviously the shitty-ass Byron Scott as the referee, so there's part of your issue. He should have looked away or something. I don't know what he could have done different, but Ross playing up that he's intimidated by Funk, so he won't disqualify him. Meanwhile, Nikita was intimidated, so he disqualified the Varsity Club, I guess. But Eddie nails a top rope dive to the outside. Looked really nice, but then he misses a plancha, and that's when Terry Funk goes in the ring, and he just starts bouncing off the ropes back and forth, just hilarious before he just, out of nowhere, just launches himself with like a baseball slide kick on Eddie and knocks Eddie into the railing. Really cool stuff there from Terry Funk. And then obviously the pile driver on the outside, and he tosses Eddie back in and drops a knee for good measure to get the win in about 5 minutes, 14 seconds. Really good TV match.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And there's one point too where Eddie was doing like the gory roll, or like the gobbledygooker roll, and Funk's like doing the hand motion with his hands, like, what the hell is this guy doing? Like, he just looks baffled, like you said, with him being intimidated. Yeah, just, it's 5 minutes, but there was so much packed into that 5 minutes that it's definitely very, very entertaining, and one of the better TV matches that you'll see for sure.
So I think I've grabbed every Terry Funk promo up until now, so I was going to try to avoid grabbing the next one. And then I heard the story, and I knew what it was, and I said, I can't let this one go either. So we're coming back from commercial. Terry Funk's banging on the set, the wall. He keeps hitting the WCW sign, says he's the best in the world, and he tells the infamous Jackass story. And here it is.
Terry Funk does wrestle. I am the best in the world. Now, as simple as minded as you are, you might be able to understand the story I am going to tell you. My daddy was a wonderful person, but he understood life more so than the executives of the NWA. You see, when I was a young lad, I had a jackass, and I loved that jackass. But that jackass broke its leg. And when that jackass broke its leg, my father took that jackass and put a gun to that jackass's head and blew that jackass's brains out. I said, Daddy, Daddy, why did you do that to my jackass? And my daddy said, that jackass has no more place. It's useless. It is no more use to our operation. We can't shoot Ric Flair in the head and blow his brains out, but you, as members of the NWA, can put him out to pasture. Now is the time to put Ric Flair out to pasture. Now I believe that the man wasn't injured. You say he was. Whatever the story might be or the truth might be, let's put him out to pasture and get to the top 10 contenders. Now, Rick Steiner is no longer a member. Why can't I take his position because of his injury? Who do I talk to? Who is they? Who runs the NWA? Who makes the top 10 list? Is it you, Ross?
No.
If it's you, Ross,
not me.
I will get down on my knees and I will beg to you, Ross. I will beg to you to put me in that category because I am the best wrestler in the world today. Why can't you and you people out there realize that, please?
Fans, let's get the heck out of here.
I love the way Ross ended that segment. Let's get that. Fans, let's get the heck out of here. Just crazy. Yeah. Funk down on his knees at the end of the promo, pleading at Ross or whatever you want to call it. And just that by far really blew me away. One of my favorite Terry Funk promos, certainly of this era, and so violently told. He didn't hold back the details.
No, he did not.
He blew that jackass's brains out. You know, oh my God, man, you couldn't even say that now. And it's just figuratively speaking because it didn't even really happen theoretically, you know. And still, I mean, yeah, it's I love that promo. Loved it.
I did too. It's just that epitomizes Terry Funk. That's Terry Funk. If somebody asks you what's Terry Funk, just show him that promo, and it's everything that he is in that one promo. To be honest with you, just awesome stuff, man. So good.
And so with something that high, we have to bring everything back down to a lull. It's kind of like the old WWE pay-per-views where you went to the Divas match before the main event. Only in this case, we went from the main event to the Divas match, but not really a Divas match, just a shitty match. Actually, it's not even that bad. I'll give them credit here. We see Ron Simmons and Ranger Ross team up against Lee Scott and the Enforcer, and hey, they got a team at least once before the tag team tournament. They are one of the top 8 teams in the world, after all. Ranger Ross looks with some decent offense here. Simmons just fucking murdered Scott with a spine buster, just smashed him through the mat, and combat kick by Ranger Ross, and Ron Simmons uses the diving shoulder block off the middle rope on poor Lee Scott here for a 1:19 win. Poor Scott, like I said earlier, he even does the job when he's teaming with the masked guys, and that's the trouble when you're a great bumper. Everybody just wants to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, I mean, how can you trash this match when the VIP jobber of the month's on it? He's fun as hell to watch get beat up, man. Yeah. It's just really good stuff.
Yeah, Simmons plowed him, man. That spine buster was nasty.
Yeah, it was. That's like the only note I have from this match was the spine buster.
You know, my other note for this one is honestly, there was nothing wrong with Ranger and Ron here. They worked pretty well together. They weren't even that bad together, but I could think of a better partner for Ron, and I wonder who that could be. We'll have to see what happens there. Ron and Ranger will meet the SST next week in the quarterfinals of the tag team title tournament. We'll see what happens then. And we move on to a highlight video of the Dynamic Dudes. And this is the one you were talking about. It's set to Bobby McFerrin's Don't Worry, Be Happy. And these are my notes, and this is my raw notes, unedited. What the fuck are they doing? Line dancing? ? Jazzercising ? How the hell is this cool? That was my notes for this video. And basically what it is what I wrote. They're in a dance studio or something, or an exercise studio or something like that with women. It seemed like just women. And they were doing some kind of variation of dancing meets exercise. Not cool at all. This may have been the video that got them booed out of the building.
I don't blame them. I don't blame the fans at all with this. I mean, this is terrible. I'm assuming they think they're from California and this is what they do there. I don't know, but terrible.
So we start the NWA World Tag Team Title Tournament here with the biggest names in the arguably the biggest names in the entire tournament, and that's the Road Warriors taking on the Freebirds, Hayes and Gordy. The Roadies attack. They want their belts back, and they're coming right at it. There's a loud LOD chant to begin. I saw this feud in the AWA. The Birds cost the Roadies the AWA tag titles, so that's kind of cool to watch it play out again here, right here. It was also cool to watch Hawk press the lazy-ass Michael Hayes up over his head. That was a fun moment in the match for me. Big military press, forcing Hayes to take a good 7-8 foot bump to the mat. When we had Terry Gordy in the ring versus the Roadies, it was awesome. It was like a battle of badass tough guys. Fun to watch. For as big as Gordy was, he was just an amazing bumper, and he was always spot on with timing in the ring. If he had to do a leapfrog or go under a leapfrog and run right into something else, Gordy was always there. And you didn't see that a lot from guys his size, his height, or his weight. Gordy was just always tremendous, a real natural in the ring. Referee gets tied up with Hawk, and then Michael Hayes sneaks in and DDT's Animal for a 2 count. So Michael Hayes' DDT is quickly becoming just a spot in a match rather than a finisher. Really quick scare for me. The Birds get heat on Animal. Gordy runs into a double foot from Animal in the corner, so Hawk gets the hot tag, and so does Michael Hayes. Wind up getting a 4-way melee. Hawk double clotheslines the Birds in the ring, while the SST attack Animal on the outside on the floor. What the hell's going on? Earlier I was talking about Terry Funk launching Guerrero over the top rope right in front of the referee. There was no disqualification. Somehow, the SST beating the living shit out of Animal on the floor in front of the referee is also not a disqualification. I don't know what the hell's going on. Hawk comes out to make the save. The Roadies and SST wind up in a big brawl, and the referee, meanwhile, sits there and counts the Road Warriors out. So the Freebirds get the win in 5 minutes and 16 seconds. Hayes wisely keeps Gordy from leaving the ring. Gordy actually tries to leave the ring and get involved in the brawl, and Hayes keeps him inside, and that's how they win the match. Cheap finish. Road Warriors screwed again. They were screwed out of the titles. They were screwed in the rematch. Now they're screwed here in the tournament. I think they have another argument on their hands, and this just didn't make sense for me. The finish didn't make sense. Why they keep doing this with the Road Warriors doesn't make sense. And the match itself was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, that's the note I have. This makes zero sense. If the SSC are attacking the Road Warriors, the Freebirds should be disqualified. There's nothing else to it. So these guys are having a really, really bad time of sticking to the rules, and they're just overlooking it. And it's almost to the point where you're insulting people's intelligence. Like you mentioned earlier, just Eddie Guerrero getting dumped over the top rope. They didn't call it. This is clearly outside interference on behalf of the Freebirds. They didn't call it. So the next time you call it, it's not going to mean anything because everybody can just say, well, Terry Funk did it, or hey, the SST did it. Why didn't those guys get called for it? So this is just terrible booking. It makes no sense. I get it. If you don't want the Road Warriors to win and they're not going to do the job, I get that. But why not have the SST, or do something to distract them to where they go after him and then they get counted out? Why are they attacking him? They just grab Animal and they go at it. Like he's on the outside, they just come out and start beating the hell out of him right in front of the referee.
Yeah.
And he just counts like nothing's happening. So it makes no sense. Absolutely zero sense.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I mean, it's like you said, why not have them chase the SST off, get counted out, or even lay Animal out behind the referee's back and the referee counts him out, or Hawk or whoever. I mean, you could do that as well.
And then brawl.
Yeah.
And then brawl. But they're brawling right in front of Jim Ross in the announce table, and the refs just stand there counting with the Freebirds in the middle of the ring watching everything go down. And I'm like, this is stupid. It's stupid.
And we'll head into a Teddy Long promo as we have a new Norman vignette. And I grabbed that soundbite, and I promise this is the last Norman vignette, or last Norman soundbite for this week. But I do have it, so I'm going to cue it up right now.
Welcome back, fans, to World Championship Wrestling. I want to dispel one rumor. that you're not working for fight promoter Don King. I called him. He said he didn't know anything about you. So I know you're not working for fight promoter Don King, so why are you out here?
Don King might be working for me, okay? Now, let me tell you something. The reason why I am out here is, as bad as I hate to say it, I have to say something good about the NWA. They have done one of the greatest things that I know to sign one of the greatest professional wrestlers in the world today, and that's Terry Funk, okay?
You agree with what he did to Ric Flair?
You know I agree with it. That's exactly right. So, Ric Flair, I know that you're laying up in the hospital right now in a lot of pain, and you're watching this. So all I've got to say to Ric Flair is, Ric Flair, I hope you never come back. Woo! Okay? Now, my time is mighty valuable out here, all right? So for the benefit of these people that didn't get a chance to see my friend Norman last week, I brought the video back this week, and I want them to take a look at it. So let's show the video.
What did he do?
He didn't do anything. He's innocent. He's just like me. He hasn't done a thing. He don't even ask me that anymore.
Let's see the video, ladies and gentlemen.
I used to just sit on the porch at home, one chair, this swing, sit all by myself, petting my puppy dog, just hold him. He was so small, so little. That's all I wanted to do was be left alone, and people would have to do stuff to me and say, you're a stranger, you're weird, you're cuckoo. I don't need to hear this stuff. I just wanted to be me. That's all I wanted to be, is just simple, down... yeah! You people thought you had me. You thought you put me away. You thought you seen the last of me. Well, you made one big mistake. You didn't see the last of me. Look at me. Look into the eyes. Look into the face. I'm back. All you pretty, beautiful little people with the bodies in the face. Well, it's time to look at this face.
That's it, Mr. Ross. You've seen just about enough. So right now, I think I'll just stroll over the ringside.
Well, go ahead.
And could Norman have been less interested in his own character as he went crazy there? No, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all we got as he transformed into the crazy lunatic.
Yeah.
It was, like, I don't know, man. That may be the worst act. It's almost like you can't act that bad. It was comical. And it's funny, we go from a really good promo, as far as I'm concerned, with Teddy Long, to a really bad promo with Norman. You get them both in the same segment. I remember you ripped on the initial Teddy Long heel promo, but man, I don't think he's had a bad promo since then. I don't see Jim Ross leading him anymore. His lines are really good, really clever stuff from Teddy Long, and I don't know, man. I'm digging him right now, and I'm not always a Teddy Long fan. Didn't like anything he did in the WWE. Didn't like any of his straight man stuff in WCW. Really only enjoyed him in Doom. This is the first time I'm really getting to watch these early Teddy Long heel promos and appreciate them. And I am appreciating them.
Yeah, he's definitely gotten a lot better. It's like night and day since that first promo. He probably was very grateful he got this spot. And I can just see him practicing and, cutting promos in the car and on the trips and things like that. I can just see him really putting in the effort, because you go from a referee to a manager, you obviously are doing something right, or you've shown something to show that you deserve that opportunity, and he's taking advantage of it, and he's been great. I've enjoyed his work. What's funny is I actually think this Norman vignette was better than the first one.
Well,
because
that's not saying a whole lot.
Yeah, it's not, but
yeah.
It's terrible acting for sure. But like that noise, he's like, "Oh no!" Like he felt it. He felt the change coming on, and he didn't want it to happen. But
if you say so, if you brought that noise, like that's my new soundbite. Like I'm capturing that and I'm using that forever.
Yeah. So. And then when he did switch, I thought this promo was better, because he's talking about how like all the pretty boys and everything get everything. Well, now they got to deal with him in this phase. So it was better than the first. But like you said, that's not saying much at all.
Yeah. No. That's that only comes in second to.
Hey, Blaze, little howdy doody on your coconut. Oh!
But we'll see what happens with Norman here once he debuts on TV. Teddy Long did mention at the end of the promo he's going to stay out here at ringside. And that's because Butch Reed's getting ready to come out for a squash match. And Teddy Long's really been following Butch Reed around, scouting him. And Butch Reed here with a quick win over Cougar Jay in 2 minutes, 19 seconds with the diving shoulder block. Pretty obvious at this point that Teddy Long's scouting him, and Teddy Long really wants Butch Reed in his group, his faction, team, whatever he's planning on putting together. More notes on that in the next episode. I have some really good information there. We'll close out the weekend. I didn't have this show. We don't have this show, but I did find these results. And so I just want to run down real quick. The NWA main event for May 21st, hosted by Lance Russell and Paulie Dangerously. Clips are shown of the World Tag Team title match from the pay-per-view. We get the Pillman video, NWA Top 10, and then the matches involved. Shane Douglas, Johnny Ace, the Dynamic Dudes over the Enforcer and Jack Victory in 3 minutes, 11 seconds with the Wipeout. Terry Funk pins Brad Armstrong. Haven't seen Brad Armstrong at all. Would have loved to have seen this match, even if it appears to have went pretty quick. Funk over Armstrong with the pile driver in 5 minutes, 47 seconds. I know Brad did the stretcher job for him here as well, reading in the Observer. That sounded like that would have been a really fun match to have seen.
Oh, yeah, that would have been awesome. It would have been on the same lines as Eddie Guerrero. So if anybody has this, please send it our way.
Yeah, I mean, with the timestamps and everything included here, I feel like somebody has it somewhere, and it doesn't even appear to be the entire episode based on the results. So maybe somebody does have this piece of the show. I'd love to see this. Love to see that match. It says after the match, Jim Ross conducted an interview with Funk, who claimed the police accidentally attempted to arrest him for battering a woman, referring to Ric Flair in Nashville, with Funk stating he should be in a tournament to crown a new world champion since Flair's career was over. Sounds like another amazing one. I almost want to make it up and record it myself. I didn't even hear this promo, and it sounds tremendous.
Yeah, like you could package up all these Terry Funk promos, and you couldn't even get anywhere near TV with them today. Absolutely none of them would work in today's society. Making fun of Barbara Bush and anorexia and drag and Roe versus Wade. Like, he's just all over the place, and they're all tremendous in their own way. It's just insane.
Blowing the heads off of animals.
Jackasses.
Yeah. PETA would have a field day with that one.
Woo. A lot of people would have a field day with everything. With Funk was what he was doing. Man, tremendous.
And that'll conclude the weekend of the 20th and the 21st, which will take us into the 27th and NWA Pro. So we're back at Pro here May 27th, and we still have Lance Russell and Bob Caudle together, so yay for that anyway. Boo, Michael Hayes back in singles action, and I'm already missing Terry Gordy here. Hayes with a DDT over Greg Evans, gets the win really fast, 47-second match, and thank God it was short. We go into a Michael Hayes promo. Hayes is giving cunnilingus to the camera here, just absolutely exactly what it sounds like, disgusting. Of course, even Michael Hayes has to comment on Ric Flair. He puts over Flair. He says if Flair can return, he will return, but Hayes is upset that Funk beat him to the punch and trying to put Flair out of action. Classic heel Hayes. He says pretty soon he'll be both the U.S. and the World Tag Team Champion, and he references the upcoming Bad Street Death matches with Lex Luger on the house shows.
I thought this was one of his better promos when he was talking about Funk beating him to the punch. I thought that was really well done. Kudos to Michael Hayes. You won't hear that very often from me.
I put in my notes here, LOL, Twix commercial, same music as Pillman video. So, yeah, here it is again during one of the shows. We go. First, we get a Dwayne Bruce versus Lee Scott match, which I didn't think was happening, and Terry Funk interrupted that, so I'd be right. And now we get Dwayne Bruce in a promo, which I didn't think was happening. And so let's find out what happens here when Dwayne Bruce, the future Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker, gets probably his only promo of his entire career that I can remember.
Young man that we are standing with right now, we saw under different circumstances just about a week ago, Dwayne. Dwayne Bruce is who. Dwayne, thank you for coming out here and being with us. Situation I think everybody knows, and we're kind of embarrassed about what happened when that goofy Terry Funk comes out here. You were in the middle of what was going to be a great moment for one of you, and Funk can you not let somebody else at least have a moment out here without you interrupting it? You came out here and ruined an opportunity that this young man had.
Of course he can have a moment. I had a moment with him last week.
Yeah, you sure did.
He was the star of the show last week. Now it's time for you to spend some time with me.
Yeah, no.
In fact, let me spend some time with this young man, and you just stand back.
Will you just let us get on with it?
Now, you're a fine-looking young gentleman. I want you to tell me just one thing. Who is the better wrestler, Ric Flair or me? And I'm sure that you think Flair is.
Well, y'all both top competitors. I got to hand y'all that, but I think you're the top competitor.
Did you hear that?
I heard him.
So let's go into this now. Why am I not into the top 10? So you think I am a better man? Do you think I should be in the top 10?
Yes, I think you ought to be in the top 10.
Do you think I should be the #1 contender?
Yeah, I think you ought to be the #1 contender.
He doesn't rate him, Terry.
Let me tell you something. Flattery will get you nowhere. Oh.
Come on, folks, we're crying out loud.
Terry, good night. I'm quit guy. You come out here and put the pile driver.
That boy doesn't even belong in wrestling. How can he possibly?
You're talking about him not belonging in wrestling. I'm not sure you belong in a I'm tired of looking at this. Let's get somebody out, get this stopped. Let's go to Joe Pedicino Nose right now. Terry, that's the lowest. You came out here and grabbed the guy by the leg last week.
Yeah. He looks too much like Ric Flair. Everybody looks too much like Ric Flair. I don't need a kid like this any.
You look like somebody in the white guys in the white jackets ought to be coming to get you. The fans, man, Joe.
Lance Russell is a fucking legend. That shit made the whole segment. Like, I could have cut this thing off 45 seconds before I did, because all you hear is Funk beating the living shit out of Dwayne Bruce in the background, but Lance Russell's commentary over top of it, man, it's like fucking awesome.
Yeah, it is, man. He's so good. And he's such a professional. Like, it just feels like he has legit disdain for Terry Funk, like he hates him. It just
Come
comes
on now,
across
Terry.
that
What are you doing to him, Terry? Come on, Terry. Everybody looks like Ric Flair.
Yeah, it just feels like Lance has some legit heat with him, and it's just awesome. It's so believable, and you take whatever Lance Russell says seriously. So he's just adding to all these segments, and I love it.
I don't think the State Patrol ever got a promo, and I just found out why. After listening to Dwayne Bruce cut a promo. I think y'all's both top contenders. So that may have had a lot to do with it. And we do finally go to Joe Pedicino Knows, and quick recap of the top 10 here. They changed it around again. It makes no sense yet again. And we learned that the NWA is coming to Boston Gardens, and I just thought, wow, that's ballsy.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pedicino, he's still doing his little gimmick there, where he said that he's kind of hinting that Flair may never come back because the injuries are similar to his plane crash.
Yeah, I heard him say that it's worse off than what people are reporting. Again, it's like he's not a heel, but he just says these things that are so douchey. I don't know if he means to come off that douchey, but it just turns me off.
Yeah, I don't like him at this point.
We go to a dynamic dude squash over Lee Scott and Trent Knight. Lee Scott is everywhere. He's really making a play to become the May VIP Jobber of the Month. First jobber to win back-to-back VIP Jobber awards here. Lee Scott's definitely in the front runner right now, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I don't know who else is going to do it.
Dudes continue to use that future Arn Anderson theme. I guess they had it first, but I just wish they'd stop. Wipeout ends it. Johnny gets the pin on Trent Knight in 2:24. And it's to the Brian Pillman, oh yeah, video. I can't do that right now. Normally I can do that voice, but not as deep as the song, but better than that. But we get the Brian Pillman video. We've been recording here for quite a while now. My voice is kind of gone a little. Clip of the tag team match between the Road Warriors and the Freebirds from World Championship Wrestling. We already know what happens there. SST comes out and somehow gets the Roadies counted out, which is followed up by a Paul Heyman promo as he discusses his first meeting with the Road Warriors, supposedly 6 years ago.
You saw it right there, exactly what happened. Obviously, I am standing here with the manager of the SST, the renowned Paul E. Dangerously. Paul, I've known you a long time, and I got to say this. Trouble always follows you wherever you go. But, partner, I believe you got trouble like you've never seen before when you picked on the Road Warriors.
You know, you've known me a long time, but you see, the fact of the matter is, I've known the Road Warriors a long time. Oh, yeah. You see, it was 6 years ago when I was just a wrestling photographer that I went into the Meadowlands in New Jersey, and I went into the Road Warriors' private dressing room without an invitation. And Animal and Hawk, being the big stars that they are, picked me up by my scrawny neck and threw me through the door. And you know, I kind of admired that, because I said, that's what it's like to be a big star, you know? Well, you can only invite the people that you want to your dressing room, and only those people can come in. And you know, Road Warriors, when I came here to the NWA and I ran out the Midnight Express and Jim Cornette, I said, maybe, just maybe, you guys could give the Samoan SWAT team a fight. But you want to know something? You're a disgrace to the name of a street fighter. I won't even call you Road Warriors, because the fact of the matter is, you can't back up one thing. You can't back up anything against the Samoan SWAT team, because the fact of the matter is, you're a bunch of has-beens. Because the fact of the matter is, Road Warriors, a 16-year-old punk walked in your dressing room, and now a 23-year-old man is going to lead a Samoan SWAT team right over your stinking carcasses. And I'm not mad because you're no longer the champions. I'm not mad because you're a bunch of muscle-bound idiots. I'm not mad because Paul Ellering's head looks like it's going through puberty. I'm mad because you're no longer tough, because you lost your guts, and I hate your filthy, stinking guts.
Paulie, you keep talking. You're the one that's going to have to answer to it. Back in just a moment.
Really good promo by Paulie, one of his better promos so far, and really heated. And you know, you tend to hear a lot of stories about Paulie when he did go into locker rooms, sometimes sneak into locker rooms and meet all the guys and do these type of things. And this almost sounds like a true story. I wouldn't put it past this being a true story between Paulie and the Road Warriors.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. This is, I agree. I think this is one of the better promos. With the Cornette feud, it just felt like they were kind of repeating themselves over and over because it was such a long gap between matches on TV anyway. Mm-hmm. Whereas this is brand new. So I think it may get to that point here, but so far he's been knocking it out of the park. And I think there's a lot more to say about the roadies and things like that. They're kind of maybe a little bit easier target, so to speak, to talk about, I think. I love it. It was a great promo.
Promo time with Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. He mentions Ric Flair's recovery again, and this time he does acknowledge that Flair broke his nose a few months back, but he still wishes Flair the best. He also discusses Rick Steiner's injury, and we get the Rick Steiner rehab video again. That takes us to the ring. Scott Steiner, he's accompanied to the ring by not Missy Hyatt, but rather Eddie Gilbert is his corner man for this match, and he takes on Troy Allridge. Lance makes a funny comment as the match gets going. As you look at Scott Steiner and you think about Rick Steiner, he says, "I don't know what Mama Steiner fed her boys." But it just sounded funny, Lance saying that. Scott is scary good here. The inverted power slam looked disgusting, like insane, like violent as hell. Steiner line of death, too. Just ran poor Aldridge over with it to where he didn't really have an opportunity to bump right. He just mauled him, destroyed him. And then Steiner with that pivoting belly to belly got the win in about a minute and a half.
He also had that nasty atomic drop too, where he kind of caught him in the air and then he went right down on it. There's no way he didn't go down on that. So Aldridge, he earned his money. He earned his money that night. Woo.
Yeah, Aldridge giving it a go against Lee Scott. If Lee Scott hadn't wrestled 20 times more than Aldridge, because Aldridge took that Terry Funk beat down, the slaps, and then the pile driver. Now Scott Steiner just murdered him. We'll see what happens at the end of the month. And we go into Worldwide. Jim Ross hosts by himself from center stage. We kick things off right away with the Paulie Dangerously promo.
SWAT team, let me ask you a question. If the Road Warriors come from the streets, where do their mamas come from, huh? You see, the fact of the matter is, there's not a pair of street-walking mama's boys that can take on the most animalistic human machines of destruction on God's green earth. Because you see, the Road Warriors don't have the hunger they had in 1983. The Samoan SWAT team have that hunger in 1989. The Road Warriors don't have have the thirst for blood that they had in 1983, and the SST have it in 1989. So you see, Road Warriors, the fact of the matter is, by the time the Samoan SWAT team is done with you, you're going to be as useless as Ric Flair's virility when Terry Funk showed the world what a wimp Ric Flair really is. So, ladies and gentlemen, the only team in the world with more hunger, more desire, and a greater thirst for blood than the Road Warriors, Samu and Fatu, the SST Samoan SWAT team, huh?
Another good Paulie promo, and he's not holding back. You know, they're trying to make some money here with this feud.
Yeah, the only problem I have with this is the SST just jobs the dynamic dudes at WrestleWar rather cleanly. So, are you buying it?
To be honest with you, until you mentioned that, I completely put that in the back of my head. I really just brushed that match off. It's not only a fluke, but just done in order to get the dynamic dudes over. It's like the pin didn't even. It's almost like when Shawn Michaels jobbed to Hogan. Okay, I jobbed to Hogan, but, you know, he's gone now, so let's move on. You know, that's what he said the next night on Raw. It's kind of like, you know, we all know why I went out there and did what I had to do. Now let's go back to reality, and this is what I really am. And that's just the way I look at it nowadays. Back then, I don't know that it would have had much of any kind of effect on me other than it was the fluke type win. Not necessarily a fluke, but you know what I mean. That wasn't like a definitive win where they just beat the SST down and got the victory. It was, you know, the whole drop kicking his partner onto top of the SST, whichever guy it was, Samu or Fatu. But yeah, I mean, I'd already forgotten about it. That was a match that didn't really matter to me. It felt like it was just done specifically, obviously, to get the dynamic dudes over. So whoever was in the other spot, they were just drew the unlucky, the short straw that week. So it didn't really bother me any. I mean, just watching the Roadies and the SST beat the living shit out of each other, I'm a believer. Yeah. Just watching them hit each other as hard as they can. Yeah. I'm totally on board at this point. Maybe not so much if they have to have extended length matches, but for right now, it's just beating the living hell out of each other. Yeah, I'm definitely on board.
Yeah, all right, that's fine. I was just curious because I know matches and losses are important. So lose to a team like the Dudes, but Paulie's so good, he elevates them. And then the Roadies are giving them some stuff. You know, they cost them a match, and they're giving them things early on in this feud to make it look like they have a chance. So I think they're doing it properly. Like you said, I think it was just a one-off more than anything else.
And we go to the ring, SST in there over Mike Justice and Bucky Siegler. SST jumped the job guys before the bell. They do the spot they did at the pay-per-view. I think it's Justice leapfrogs over top of one of the Samoans into a super kick from the other one. This one was kind of sloppy compared to the awesome one at the pay-per-view, but they still hit the spot again. Fatu with the big splash off the top ends it, gets the pin on Siegler in just 54 seconds. They've seemed to really ramp up their intensity in their squash matches, if that's possible. Squashers are going shorter. They're beating the living hell out of the jobbers now. Also, they have more credibility when they take on the Road Warriors. Good stuff. We move on to Hacksaw Butch Reed taking on Randy Rose, and why is Randy Rose still from the dark side? He's not even a part of the Midnight Express. I'd like for him to get a hometown at this point. Dude needs to move. Butch Reed has been here for almost 5 months, hasn't done anything, and somehow has made it to the number 5 ranking, and I'm still trying to figure out how. Teddy Long continues to scout Reed. This may be the longest scouting in the history of wrestling. Randy Rose gets in some offense, but he's clearly been relegated to the lower tier player. Butch Reed with some power moves. Randy misses a shoulder charge into the corner. Reed off the top of the shoulder block ends it in about 4.5 minutes. Good little TV match.
Yeah, Rose is really good in this spot. I mean, he's a name. He just came off a feud at the beginning of the year, so he's believable. And getting wins over him, even though he's jobbing out every week, it just definitely enhances you because he is elevated compared to like a Lee Scott.
Right. Yeah, and Rose, I'd still love to see him in a tag team or maybe a little higher on the card. I mean, he's not going to be main eventing or even semi-main eventing, but I'd like to see him used a little more than just the jobber to the stars or a TV job guy who gets in some offense. We move on to a Road Warriors promo. They respond to Paulie's promo at the top of the program, and here's what they have to say.
SWAT team cost the Road Warriors the opportunity to advance to the semifinals in the World Tag Team Title Tournament. And if Paulie dangerously wanted the attention of the most awesome team in this sport, I think he got it.
Yo, Jim Ross, everybody out there in Nation saw we had the Freebirds beat 1, 2, 3. Now who the heck do the Samoans think they are? You gotta come and grab me from behind. Well, you just bit off more than you can chew. What?
Nothing.
Samoa SWAT team, we ain't gonna rest until we get you. And Freebirds, we know anytime, anywhere, we've proven to you and everybody else, we can beat you. We are the true champions. Tell them, huh? Rossi, my boy, I don't think the people that are in charge of lighting here are giving Paulie a fair shake.
How's that?
Well, they got just a little bit too much lighting above his head to show that severely receding hairline. Of which, by the time we get done slapping his Samoans around, he'll lose a little bit more hair and have a few more wrinkles. And you know, he's right. We are from the streets. But he's wrong about one thing. We were never fortunate enough to know who our mothers were. And since the Samoans wear skirts, it's a possibility they could be our mothers. But heaven forbid they are. Because the good-looking individuals that me and Animal are, we must have had awfully good-looking father to make up for the messy-looking faces those banana boaters got. See, that's the one thing good about the U.S. You can come over on a banana boat from some stinking island and make a good living, but not against us, SWAT team.
All right, fans.
Banana boaters. Hawk just said whatever the hell he felt like. Oh, man.
Oh, my God. I love Hawk. Oh, my God.
He gets a big pop there, too, when he said, "You might be our mothers." It was another good line by Hawk. Hawk can really come up with some good stuff, and I really enjoyed it.
And the best part about it is they were so over it. He could say whatever the hell they want. He's going to get a pop. Like, it did not matter. Like, he could be stupid. He could be funny. He could be serious. And ain't nobody going to tell him any different because it's Hawk. And, oh, my God.
Oh, that was
so
good
funny.
stuff, though. Good stuff.
Whew.
Back to the ring. It's the Great Muta out there in handicap match against Trent Knight and Cougar Jay. Again, 2 members of the VIP Jobber of the Month Club. Poor Trent Knight runs right into green mist to start off the match, and apparently getting misted in the face, and that's become a common thing here, is apparently not a disqualification here in the NWA. But anyways, poor Trent gets misted right at the beginning of the match, and we don't see him again. Then poor Cougar Jay is the one that gets buzzsawed by Muta. Muta just destroys him in the ring before spraying red mist into the face of Jay, and then the moonsault ends in just 1 minute and 45 seconds. Jim Ross sold Muta hard here. He says he's still a Sting fan, but he doesn't think Sting can beat Muta, and that says a lot. Ross is really putting over Muta here.
Yeah, it's awkward a little bit because he is heel and he's with Gary Hart. It's cool to hear that they realize Muta is going to be loved no matter really what they do or who they put him against. He's going to be entertaining, and people are going to enjoy him and cheer for some of the stuff he's doing. So you might as well just pick up on that and start selling him hard, no matter what's going on.
Another
thing I
mentioned about the Road Warrior promo.
Yeah.
Dude, when Animal turned around and yells "what" at Jim Ross, he looked scared stiff. Oh my God. He's like, nothing. I didn't mean anything.
Nothing.
Like he looked legit intimidated. Like, I don't know if that was scripted or what happened, but Animal looked pissed because Ross moved, and Ross looked scared to death when Animal turned around and looked at him. I forgot to mention that, but oh my God, if you can find that, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I remember that. Another note on this Muta match here is I've noticed over the last several weeks we're no longer hearing the son of Kabuki, and thank God for that.
Yeah, thank God. That should have been like a Steiner Watch thing that we had. How long before Kabuki stopped mentioning?
Another Eddie Gilbert promo. It's once again he's talking about Ric Flair's recovery and he's talking about Rick Steiner's recovery. Nothing about Eddie Gilbert though. And the reason Gilbert keeps coming out there cutting these promos is he's got a bum leg, so he's not working either. But they're not selling it as such that he has an injury because we have so many other injuries going on. The fake injury to Flair, the real injury to Rick. So Gilbert's just out here cutting another promo about everyone else except for himself. It seems weird. Eddie isn't doing much while Rick is out. We did see him accompany Scott Steiner to the ring, and Missy's kind of been missing in action the last week or two. So that's kind of interesting. Troy Allridge continuing to push Lee Scott for that trophy here in May as he takes on Ron Simmons, who is rough, aggressive, and nasty here. Power slam ends it in just over 3 minutes. And I like that they gave Ron enough time to shine here instead of another quick 30-second, 1 minute, 90-second squash we've been seeing with a lot of guys. It really helped Ron develop as a wrestler in the ring as far as me as a fan watching him. I know more of his repertoire. I know he's more than just one or two moves. I thought he did a really good job here with the 3 minutes he was given.
I think so too. He even busted out a drop kick early on. So, and it was a pretty nice one too for his size. But yeah, good stuff.
We closed the show with Scott Steiner taking on Michael Hayes. Again, a weird position for Scott Steiner, who has just debuted with the company. Scott has no Missy, no Eddie Gilbert, nobody at ringside with him here. He's all by himself. Scott works the arm early on. Hayes with his usual crap chin lock in return. Scott Steiner with a crossbody block. Hayes rolls through, puts his feet on the ropes. There's no way Patrick can't tell that his feet are on the ropes, but Jim Ross sells it like he can't because they're so close to the ropes when they do the roll through that it's blatantly obvious. But Hayes steals the win, gets the 1, 2, 3. Michael Hayes beats Scott Steiner in 6 minutes, 19 seconds. I think they've done a piss poor job introducing Scott to the company. No fanfare debut against Kevin Sullivan, which he loses before getting a reverse decision. Then he squashes a couple guys in a few seconds. Then he turns around and does a job to Michael Hayes. I truly don't even know the point of this match or why it was even put together, what it was out there to accomplish. I mean, let's do Hayes versus Randy Rose, Hayes versus Ranger Ross or someone of that caliber instead of Scott Steiner here. I really don't know what the point of this was.
Yeah, I don't know either. I just don't think they knew what to do with Scott Steiner just yet with Rick being out. I guess I can give him the benefit of the doubt there, but yeah, it made no sense. Scott Steiner, man, thank God it was 1989 because he came in and got wrecked early as far as booking. If it happened now, he would never recover, but we see that time back then.
And that takes us into the nighttime program, NWA World Championship Wrestling for May 27th. This episode is recorded on the 10th of May. We see Michael Hayes is back as co-host with Jim Ross. No, I would do my best Norman here. I just can't take it.
Yeah. Me either. I said shitty Michael Hayes back as co-host. This sucks.
I thought for sure once he got the U.S. title, once he got put in a program with Terry Gordy, and they're doing a tag team thing on top of that we'd never see him back in the co-host position. And here we are, without any explanation. Michael Hayes is back, and he claims he's going to be full-time. I hope that's not the case. Kick off things with Terry Funk taking on Davey Rich of that Party Patrol. Davey gets some offense. It's odd they gave him a promo as Party Patrol, and he's already in a singles match here, and we don't even see Johnny Rich anywhere in sight. Certainly a top-level jobber. Davey Rich is very capable. I always liked his work. Funk nails a clothesline, turns Davey Rich inside out with it, and hits the pile driver. Gets the win in 5 minutes, 44 seconds. Another Brad Armstrong-esque, as we read, or Eddie Guerrero-esque match where the match goes nearly 6 minutes. Funk getting more time in the ring to really show off.
Yeah, really good stuff.
Up next, out of nowhere, is a Oriental Torture match. What a name. Sounds like something Gary Hart would have came up with. And all it is Great Muta taking on not 2 guys in the handicap match, but 3 guys in a handicap match. And the only rule really is that he must beat all 3 of them within 10 minutes. Apparently pinfalls also count anywhere in this one. We learned Gary Hart has signed Dan Spivey based on commentary, although that never comes to fruition, but I did catch that in commentary, so I had to absolutely get it in on the show. They say Spivey's over in Japan, which is true, perfecting a new hold, which is not true. We also learned that Eddie Gilbert has accepted the Dragon Shy Challenge, so that actually answers the question from earlier if anybody else did it, but I remember seeing it. I think it's in syndication. I'm hoping we stumble upon it. I hope we have it when we get into June or July. I'm sure it's before the Bash. Eddie versus Muta. Speaking of Muta, he destroys Mike Justice here with a bunch of cool stuff, hits the plancha on the floor. It's false count anywhere, so he gets the win with the plancha in 1 minute and 40 seconds. Climbs right back in the ring, hits a crossbody back in the ring on Knight, gets the win there. Match now at 1 minute and 51 seconds old. And then a handspring elbow and the old moonsault on Cougar Jay finishes Cougar off in 3 minutes, 15 seconds. Whole match goes just over 3 minutes. Just sick. He had enough offense for 3 guys. Amazing. Muta's just another level. How do you let talent like this go? Like ever? How do you ever let him leave your company? It never gets boring. It never gets old. Another great Muta match.
Did he had a contract with New Japan, right? Or over in Japan? Is that why he left? Or why did he went to Japan? Let him go?
He went to Japan. Well, they wanted to turn him babyface, and Gary Hart talked him into leaving. Said a Japanese guy would never get over as a babyface in America, even though he was over as a fucking heel in America. It's Gary Hart's logic, dude. It's Gary Hart's logic. The guy's living in fucking 1969. So
we need to come up with a reward for the biggest, I don't know the exact word, but like dipshit or something of 1989. And I think it's a 2-man race between Bonnie Steamboat and Gary Hart for screwing over talent.
Well, the trouble is Bonnie Steamboat will be gone soon, and Gary Hart has the whole rest of the year to act like an asshole.
Well, I mean, she ruined Steamboat.
Yeah, she did that. That is true. Hart you ruined a whole, main eventer there, yeah.
Exactly. So they're co-winners. We already determined it. I don't think anybody's going to do as much damage as those two.
It's the NWA Top 10, and the new list sees Dick Murdoch fall all the way to 10. Kevin Sullivan joins the list at 9. Dan Spivey, who hasn't even been on TV since the pay-per-view, somehow makes it all the way up to 8. Eddie Gilbert was in a tag team. He hasn't wrestled but one match with Scott Steiner on it as his partner since the pay-per-view. Now he's all the way up to 7. Great Muta falls to 6, and Butch Reed is somehow still stuck at 5. The rest of the rankings make somewhat sense. Luger's 4, Sting's the TV champion, he's 3. 2 is Michael Hayes, which just is just a sad situation in and of itself. And number 1 is Ricky Steamboat. Of course, the champion's Ric Flair. We see highlights of a Road Warriors versus SST match from an arena, and this is only 2 minutes, but it is absolutely awesome. It's the best the SST have looked yet, as it's just a fucking fight, man. Hard shots throughout. Everybody's managing to sell, but they're still beating the living shit out of each other. There's 4 of the toughest guys alive. I mean, this was very, very believable. They go outside the ring and throw each other around into stuff, and they won't stop fighting. They wind up all getting counted out, and this is just what I'm talking about, man. This is what makes me believe in the SST and Road Warriors feud at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think the SST realized they had to up their game and match the intensity and, just ruggedness of the Road Warriors, especially coming after a loss to the dudes, even though it was a fluke. And after seeing that, sign me up. I need like a 7-8 minute match of that, just straight beating the hell out of each other.
We go to another Lex Luger pre-tape, and this time Lex is, he's got some more to say about Michael Hayes, the U.S. title, and just playing by the rules. Here's another Lex Luger promo.
They asked the total package, Lex Luger, why do you stop? Why do you sign a bad street match? That's Michael Hayes' match. First of all, it's the only way I'd get Michael Hayes in the ring. Second of all, I relish any opportunity to get Michael Hayes in the ring. Bad street, I don't care what kind of match it is, because bad street, come to think of it, doesn't have any rules. I've been operating by the rules for a very, very long time, Michael Hayes. And it's about time Lex Luger took advantage of a situation like this where there aren't any rules. That means, Michael Hayes, the referee can't stop us. There has to be a finish to the match. There's got to be a winner. And I'm sick and tired of coming out in the short and just stick playing it by the rules. This match is right up my alley now. You see, Michael Hayes, what comes around goes around. Bad street match anywhere in the country. I don't care where it takes place, Michael Hayes. I'm coming after you, and there aren't any rules. Think about it.
Lex Luger sounded a little heelish there in that promo. If he was cutting out on anybody but Michael Hayes, I'd say that. But since he's cutting out on Michael Hayes, I'll let it fly.
It's just those subtle things that he's doing to point to somewhere. It's coming up soon. So I like it. He's showing aggression and just he's tired of getting screwed around. Like, it just seems like a lot of stuff's going on with him, the people he's feuding. Barry Windham hightails it out of there. They had a short match, things like that. He's probably just getting fed up, and he's tired of playing by the rules, like he says, and he's ready to take advantage of some cheap shots and stuff like that. So, interesting to see where it's going. I know where it's going, but I want to see more of it.
Back to the ring, we get Scott Steiner accompanied by his brother Rick and Missy Hyatt. They take on Secret Service Jack Victory, and the only thing I can say here is Jack Victory's still wearing, and I don't understand how this is Secret Service gear. I'm telling you, it looks like something either a janitor or a mechanic wears. Looks like shit. But Woman is back. Nancy's back, or the Robin Green character is back in the crowd. She's back, and she greets Rick Steiner with a teddy bear for his recovery. And when she popped up there, it kind of shocked me, took me off guard. I hadn't seen her in so many weeks. I forgot she existed. I'd forgotten about the character. So when I saw it again, I go, oh yeah, I forgot. I thought it was funny as Rick takes the teddy bear, he walks away with it, he starts cranking, like trying to rip its head off, break its neck, love him and squeeze him and call him George. It's just
Right.
so funny. And he wasn't doing it in a malicious way. He was doing it in a goofy Rick Steiner way. Like, oh, this is funny.
Yeah.
Let me try to break its neck. Missy's so fucking gorgeous here. God, Missy was gorgeous. Teddy Long joins commentary for this match. Not really sure why. In fact, it got annoying. The first half of the match, Jim Ross is trying to tell the story of what's going on in the ring with the Steiners and everything, and Teddy Long just keeps cutting him off to talk about his own agenda. So it was honestly a little annoying to have him out there doing that. There's time for that. There's time not to do that, and I felt like Teddy was just doing it a little too much.
Yeah.
Like there was a big bump to the floor early on. Jack and Scott both spilled over the top rope. Really nasty bump to the floor by both guys, and Ross is trying to sell it hard, and Teddy's cutting him off to talk monotone about his own, shit, and that stuck out to me. I didn't really care for that. Victory gets a lot of offense here, oddly enough. Scott was kind of nice to him. That wouldn't have happened any other time in Scott Steiner's career. Victory goes for a body slam. Scott Steiner cradles him into a small package, gets the win in 3 minutes, 43 seconds. I was a little upset that Scott didn't do more to Victory or didn't get a more clean-cut win, had to win with a cradle. Seemed like they were still trying to protect Victory. It was a week or two ago. He did the job to Sting in a crossbody instead of the Scorpion. Now here this week, he's doing the job to a cradle instead of Scott's belly to belly or something like that.
Yeah, this is. I have some notes on this one. So when they took that bump, they did the Steamboat Flair move that we talk about, where they're trying to do the crossbody and they both like just fall over the top rope effortlessly. Well, it didn't work out very well when you got the ass the size of Jack Victory. It takes a little bit more effort to get over the top. So they're like struggling on the top rope. It takes like 5 seconds for them to get over. It looks like total shit compared to Ric Flair and Steamboat. But then again, I don't think anybody does it better than those two. And then one other thing that I found interesting, we all know you love you some Missy Hyatt, and who doesn't, from 1989. During this match, they announced that Eddie Gilbert is on a cruise.
Yeah, I heard that. I remember that in passing. Eddie Gilbert's on the cruise.
Yeah, so Eddie Gilbert's on a cruise, and his hot-ass woman is ringside with Rick and Scott Steiner. Who the hell goes on a cruise without their woman, especially a woman as hot as Missy Hyatt? Who's leaving her at home on a cruise?
Well, maybe he just wasn't as paranoid as some people, Trusted his wife. Didn't work out so well, but you know how it goes.
I mean, come on. If this is the best they got, this is stupid. There's no way.
Well, I mean, the way Jim Ross said it, I thought it was legit. I thought maybe they had some kind of a Bruise Cruise type thing going on or something like that, and Eddie was participating on it as part of the NWA or something. I mean, obviously they're not selling that on TV at all, so I don't know that to be the case. It just felt by the way. It felt like the way Jim said it.
Hyping that shit up.
Yeah, that would definitely be on the Pedicino knows. Pedicino knows how to bore me. Pedicino knows how to be a douchebag. Pedicino knows how to put away a whole lot of buffet.
So yeah, that didn't make any sense to me. I get trusting your wife, but man, if I had a wife that hot, I'm taking her to the cruise and showing it off, man. I mean, like, look at this.
I just felt like it was legit because JR said it in passing instead of like playing it up. There was no reason to mention why Eddie wasn't there otherwise. You know what I mean? Because Missy had accompanied the Steiners to the ring plenty of times without Eddie, so it just seemed legit. I just don't know what it was all about. But we'll move into more action here. The World Tag Team Title Tournament continues. It's the SST taking on that awesome tag team of Ron Simmons and Ranger Ross. Teddy Long scouts Ron from ringside. He actually makes a pitch to him finally after all these weeks. Kind of hands him a contract, looks like, leaving Ranger to take a beat down on his own while Ron's down on the ground talking to Teddy Long. Finally, Ross has enough of it. He comes out and yells at Ron Simmons, tells him to get with the program. Ron teases like he's going to tag in, but the Samoans jump Ranger and Simmons drops down off the apron and leaves with Teddy Long, leaving Ranger Ross in the ring by himself to Finn by himself. And Samoans obviously get the win. Fatu's diving splash. Samoans win in about 5 minutes. Simmons ends up leaving the arena, the building, with Teddy Long. What a waste of a team. Too many angles in this tournament as well. Not enough wrestling in the tournament for me. Just a lot of angles, so very angle heavy instead of relating to wrestling.
That's kind of where they're going with TV in general, not just this tag tournament, but man, it just seems like everything's an angle. Every match, every big match with two names in it seems to be just an angle, and they're kind of getting away from wrestling, and it's just angle after angle. It's angle overload, to be honest. It's starting to get that way.
During this match, since Michael Hayes is back on commentary as co-host, he also mentioned during this tag team match that next week he was going to debut the newest member of the Freebirds, which I thought was odd considering Terry Gordy had already entered into the tournament with Michael Hayes. And I don't even know that that the Freebird debuts next week. But
I thought they saved that for the Clash.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But
Seven's when they did the debut.
Right, that's what I was going to say. But they announced here that it's supposed to be next week on TV. But of course, this is recorded all the way back on the 10th, so maybe that was the plan at that point.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where Gordy is. I don't know if he's back in Japan right now or what the hell's going on. But we've seen Hayes in singles. Now he's doing co-hosting gigs, and he's bringing in another Freebird. So not really sure where Gordy is right now. Then we cut to a promo with a familiar face. Jim Cornette is back in the NWA, and so is his Midnight Express.
Oh, all the fans of World Championship Wrestling right here on Superstation TBS. You don't have to wait till after the baseball game. You don't have to squeeze it in between the new Leave It to Beaver and Fishing with Orlando Wilson, because World Championship Wrestling is at 7:05 p.m. next week, a full 2 hours, because Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express are coming back to the NWA. Ain't coming back for no other reason than the World Tag Team Championship belts are up for grabs. They're on the line. There's a tournament, and we're going to have the first round match in that tournament, because the Midnight Express is going all the way to the top. For the third time, we're going to regain the World Tag Team Championship. Now, a lot of people have said, are you coming back to get Paulie dangerously? See, that was a mistake on my part. Bobby and Stan tried to help me in my personal feud. We beat one of his teams, then another, then another. Paulie, every time you get beat, you land on your feet like a cat. Well, this time, the Midnight Express, their priority first and foremost is the World Tag Team Championship, and go through the Dynamic Dudes, the Samoan SWAT team, the Fabulous Freebirds, or any other team they have to get the World Tag Team belts. But Paulie Dangerously, you're my job, and I didn't do my job before, so I'm going to rectify that situation. If I get a chance at you on my own time, then, brother, you better believe every time I look in the mirror, I still see the scars that you put on my head. And I guarantee you, punk, if you're not already looking over your shoulder, you better be looking over it, because I'm coming after you. But in the meantime, the Midnight Express, beautiful Bobby and Sweet Stan, better than ever, are coming back to the NWA, and we're coming back to take the World Tag Team Championship, and next week is our first round match right here on World Championship Wrestling.
Cornette cutting some pre-tape promos before the Midnights head back into town. I kind of like that they're saving Midnights for the actual wrestling and not just having them stand there while Cornette's cutting a promo. Gives you a little more to wait for next week with the Midnight's return to TV.
Yeah, it gives you that mystique. Are they going to look different? Are they going to look, maybe in better shape? What are they going to look like? They've been gone for, a month or two. So, yeah, great job. Whoever decided that to do it that way, good choice.
So last week, Jim Ross promised he was going to Charlotte to speak with Ric Flair's doctor, Dr. Astounding, however the hell you pronounce it. Anyway, there's a pre-tape interview here with Jim Ross and the doctor. Doctor says Rick has had wear and tear and neck problems already, and now he's ruptured a disc in the lower part in his neck. He's pinched a nerve going down his left arm, and as a result, says Rick has told him he's weaker in his bench press than ever before. Can't really move his hands as well as he used to. He has numbness in his fingers and a lot of pain. The injury takes quite a while to heal, says the doctor, and they need to give him the time to heal with physical therapy. This is actually an injury Ric Flair actually really did have. It goes back to 1987, and it lasted for quite a long while. Flair wasn't able to lift a certain amount of weight over his head while he was in the ring wrestling for quite a while there. And so I thought that was interesting that they played an actual injury Ric Flair had once upon a time into the current injury here in 1989.
Yeah, it's really cool. I didn't realize it was something he was actually dealing with. So when he speaks to it and talks about it, it's obviously going to be believable. And this doctor came off really well. He didn't stutter. He knew exactly what he was talking about. Very legit, very professional, and it was a really good segment. A lot of times these doctor segments can be pretty bland and boring. This one was really well done. Good job.
Yeah, definitely one of the better doctor promos of all time for sure. Nothing to it, but it was it was legit stuff. He was saying legit stuff that probably helped it along. But yeah, good job by Doc. Good job, Doc. We closed the show with a Terry Funk promo. This is the only Terry Funk promo on the entire 3 weeks that I didn't grab. Funk claims he called Ric Flair's attorney, said Rick wouldn't speak to him directly. He wants to pay Ric Flair's round-trip ticket to the show next week to tell him about the extent of his injury. Funk says Ric Flair's legs aren't broken, and he's told that Ric Flair will be here. Funk hears that not only can Flair be wrestling again, he may even accept Funk's challenge for the World Championship as well. So Funk's looking forward to Ric Flair's return to some degree. So how about that? We get Ric Flair and the Midnight Express both back next week on World Championship Wrestling.
Definitely makes you want to tune in. No reason not to at this point.
That ends that show, and we'll conclude. This is our final show this week on the podcast. NWA main event for May 28th. Lance Russell and Paulie hosting. We kick things off with a familiar face. We haven't seen him in a while, but he's back in the NWA now. Wild Bill Irwin over Rick Connors in 335 with the bicycle pump kick. Just Irwin with his normal kick and punch style. Nothing fancy. You're never going to get a good match out of him. Although he does have a pretty decent match in the summer with Flying Brian. Nothing special. But here it's just Irwin mauling Connors and gets the win with the big nasty kick. And when Irwin connects with that kick, and he doesn't every time, but when he connects with that kick, he can kick your head off.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool looking finish. I kind of like Bill Irwin. Like you said, he's nothing special, but he has a different look, and just as a throwaway type heel, that's a little bit of a name. He definitely plays that role really, really well. Kind of like the Steve Casey, Scott Casey type mold.
Yeah, I think they use him even higher up than they're using Randy Rose right now, but he certainly would fit in that level. I think him and Randy Rose are equally on that level. One a heel. I think Irwin plays a much better heel than a face, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's Jim Cornette promo time again already. Well, I'll let that one play out and we'll talk about it on the other side. Final sound clip of the week, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, the event that all the sports writers, all the fans, all the people all across America, all the followers of professional wrestling have been waiting for is finally coming to pass. The Midnight Express are coming back to the NWA. Bigger and better than ever, and there's one reason and one reason only for it. Because the World Tag Team Championship belts are up for grabs. They're on the line in a tournament to the best team who can come and take them. And next week, right here, you're going to see the first round match that the Midnight Express participate in the journey to those belts. Now, a lot of people have been going, Midnight Express, Jim Cornette, are you coming back to the NWA to take care of Paulie Dangerously? We see the Midnight Express, they filled their part of the bargain, and that several months ago, they broke the original Midnight Express up. Paulie Dangerously, that was my problem. That was my job, and I didn't do my job. Well, I'm going to take care of that, too. Because I'm going to keep the Midnight Express far away from wrestling Paulie Dangerously's guys. They aren't doing us any good. They haven't got any belts. And as soon as we beat one team, he brings another one right in. Now, this time, the Midnight Express are going to be the World Tag Team Champions for the third time. And anybody or anything that they have to go through in that tournament, whether it be hell, high water, King Kong, or Godzilla, any team that gets in the ring with the Midnight Express would rather be in a hospital giving birth to a 22-pound flaming porcupine, because beautiful Bobby's the best shape of his life. He's ready to jump off the CNN Center in Atlanta. Sweet Stan's the best shape of his life. Talk about being a stud. He's got secretariats sending him fan mail. The Midnight Express is and always will be and always has been the greatest tag team in professional wrestling. And their priorities of the World Tag Team title, Freebirds, Samoan SWAT team, Dynamic Dudes, or any team that gets in their way. You better just remember that, and remember also the fact, Paulie Dangerously, that while I said the Midnight Express wasn't going to have anything to do with you, because it's not productive to their needs, Punk, I still remember you, and every time I look in the mirror, I got scars on my face. And I ain't saying that I can kick anybody's butt in the world except yours. But if I get the chance on my own time, Paulie, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So you be looking over your shoulder, if you aren't already, with all the other people you've made enemies out of, you punk.
Pretty identical to the promo he cut on World Championship Wrestling. Basically saying he's bringing the Midnights back for the world titles. He doesn't want them to get involved in his feud with Paulie Dangerously. Just, I grabbed both of them simply because we haven't heard Cornette in a while, so I grabbed two Cornette promos.
Yeah, I mean, you never go wrong with the Cornette promo back in 1989 anyway. Pretty good stuff.
We get the Dynamic Dudes music video. Don't worry, be happy. They're still trying to learn to line dance or jazzercise or whatever the hell's going on there. At least the company's trying. They're really trying to push these guys hard. And to the ring with the Dynamic Dudes in action, win over George South and Trent Knight in 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Shane gets the win over South with the wipeout. I thought it was funny during their entrance here. I don't know if you saw it. They actually take their skateboards and sit them down and then stand on them and pose as if they're riding them in the ring. Shane looks absolutely uncomfortable trying to balance on the skateboard.
Looks like they're doing it for the photographer's ringside. But yeah, this one's pretty funny. Shane has this big old grin on his face while he's doing it. They're trying, man. That's all you can really say. I mean, I feel bad for them. They deserve better, but they're doing their best.
That Flying Brian Pillman guy, he's still heading in more of the music video to the Oh Yeah, or we'll just call it the Twix commercial.
Oh,
so,
one thing we forgot to mention, man. So we're like 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks away, and they're already pushing the Clash and announcing matches and for June 14th. That's a nice change of pace compared to the Raging Cajun where we didn't know anything until that Friday night. So they announced that Bill Irwin will be fighting Sting at the Clash of the Champions for the TV title.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so used to companies actually promoting shows that I hadn't even thought to mention that. It's an excellent point based on what we just went through with George Scott. So, yeah, definitely an excellent point there. And in a blink and you'll miss it point, Paul E. dangerously randomly announces, as he's talking to Lance Russell, randomly announces something that has nothing to do with him. He states that Terry Gordy was paid off by Kevin Sullivan to attack Dr. Death in Japan. How ludicrous is all of this? And knocked his head off. I mean, he didn't say he knocked his head off, but basically Kevin Sullivan has officially fired Dr. Death from the Varsity Club, even though the Varsity Club is no more. Jim Ross has already made that clear. So, but I guess Doc has been fired. He's been forced to turn babyface. And talk about an afterthought of an angle. You have a big, giant stable like the Varsity Club. You have big names like Dr. Death and Kevin Sullivan involved. And you throw this face turn away on an angle that never even happened, a story that you're telling that took place in Japan. So Doc turns face in Japan, which is the same way he turned heel last year, was he went to Japan and came back a heel and was all of a sudden a member of the Varsity Club. So Doc does all his turns in Japan.
Yeah, this was something they were playing up throughout the show. At the beginning, Lance Russell said we have a report about something that happened in Japan. Paulie plays it up like, yeah, I know everything. I'm not going to tell him. And then they touch on it throughout the show. Then they finally break the news of what you just said and talk about how Gordy got paid off to attack Doc in Japan, and he got paid off by Sullivan. Very odd way to break up the Varsity Club. Just weird.
And we're heading to the home stretch here on the show. We got one promo and one match left. First, the promo. It's another Norman promo. This time, no Teddy Long to introduce it, so it's all bad. Norman spoke about the people who drove him out of his town as a kid. Drove him out of his town as a kid. Can you imagine that? Promised to be the people's worst nightmare. This was bad, just bad acting, bad look, cheap. It hasn't improved week after week. It's the look continues to remain. I don't know if he shot all these vignettes at once, which is very possible, but just cheap and just not good.
Yeah, it gets even worse when he starts canning around the gold key. Oh my God, this is terrible.
Oh yeah, the key.
How could you watch one of these vignettes and think this is a good idea to keep on going?
Yeah, that was a good question. Like, I would have put the kibosh on this shit after 1 week. I'd be like, all right, let's just put you in the ring. Let's just throw you in the ring,
what
dude.
They did with, Friar Ferguson. They did like one shot of that. Like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. I know they probably got some heat for that, but
yeah, I think that's really what did it with Friar Ferguson was the Catholic Church backlash they got there. And we close the show with the Great Muta and our first look at Ricky Santana. Who would go on later to be one of the Barrio brothers with Fidel Sierra and the WCW as like upper tier job guys. Ricky Santana here though was in decent shape. I always remember Ricky Santana. He was it was on the old Coliseum videos and on WWF TV. He was Aldo Marino back then. It might have been his rookie year. You might remember it as the match Terry Funk versus a job guy. Mel Phillips puts Terry Funk's cowboy hat on, and Funk beats the living shit out of Mel Phillips for it. That just happens to be who Terry Funk was wrestling in that match, was a very young Ricky Santana. But Ricky Santana looked good here, pretty decent. A little bit of miscommunication at times, but I still enjoyed it. I was really happy when he came to the NWA. I wish they'd done a little more with him. Another guy that might have been a little better in a tag team, might have done a little better in singles had he had a little more opportunity there. He did have some great runs in Puerto Rico and a little bit in Florida. Lance Russell starts to tell a story about how Ricky Santana came over here with his family at age 2. He doesn't really go detail in it, but if it's the way I remember it is when I went through 1989, man, oh my God, 15, 20 years ago when I was watching my tapes and originally converting them to DVD like almost 20 years ago. I remember hearing the Santana story told repeatedly on these TV shows. So I'm sure we're going to hear it again in better detail than here, because it sounded like Lance Russell started to tell the whole story and it stopped. So we'll save that for another day. But it was pretty cool. Yeah. They let Santana hold his own here with Muta at points. Lots of rest holds, though, by Muta. Lots of nerve holds. It almost felt like, is this one of these matches where Muta's, knee might be a little banged up again? Chin lock by Muta. Just seemed a very different offense by Muta. He misses the hamstring elbow in the corner. Ricky gets a little comeback. And I put a note in here, there must be no air conditioning in this building because these guys are pouring sweat, especially Santana's pouring sweat.
Yeah, I had the same note. I was like, this building had no air because Muta's paint was almost like halfway gone within 2 or 3 minutes. I wonder if that's why Muta switched it up and just kind of went to the rest holds because they knew they had a certain amount of time. It looks like they was like in a high school gym or something. It just looked real. It kind of looked like a Smoky Mountain building where like Cornette would run Smoky Mountain almost. Just with TV lights and more shit in there.
Well, no offense, people, but it was filmed in Bluefield, West Virginia, so that might have something to do with it.
But I wonder if that's why Muta just didn't go do full on Muta, because it was too hot and they knew they had to go a certain amount of time. That's the only thing I could think of, because there was a lot of rest holds, like nerve hold, chin locks, things like that. And
Finish
he beat him with the bridge, the German with the bridge. Yeah.
Finish saw Santana miss that corner charge, and Muta with that really nice looking German suplex bridge gets the win in 6 minutes 40 seconds. That wraps up NWA main event, and that wraps up our show for this week, Steve. And we'll be back next week with a lot lighter show. We're going to take it a little easy on ourselves, a little easy on you guys next week, and cover just 2 weeks of NWA television, the first 2 weeks of June, before we tackle in 2 weeks' time. The next watch-along will be another edition of Clash of the Champions. It's Clash of the Champions 7. I think it's Guts and Glory.
It is, from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Talk about hot.
And so, yeah, we'll be back next week, guys, with just a couple more weeks of NWA TV. We'll also be back with the May 1989 VIP Jobber of the Month, as well as the NWA Top 10 for the month of May. Steve, once again, man, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate you hanging here with me, knocking out these 3 weeks of TV as we head into the middle of the year already.
It's crazy. Time's flying by. It feels like we just started and we're almost halfway through June, or we just finished up May. We'll be done with June real quick. It's very good, entertaining TV, so it just makes it a lot easier, and it's just flying by, and I'm having a blast. This is great. I'm enjoying it.
To look back at January and look here in May and June coming up, it's just like a different world that we're in right now, and for the better.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. George Scott time, you're kind of dreading like having to get through 10, 12 shows, but now I can't wait to get through the next 2 weeks of TV. I'm really excited to see it and talk about it.
Yeah, so we're going to give you guys a break. We're only going to do a couple weeks worth of TV next week, like I said. And Steve, man, it's been a pleasure, man. I really appreciate you being here, knocking these out with me, and I'll see you next week for another couple more shows, couple more weeks of shows.
Can't wait. Pleasure to be here.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Thank you, Your Lordship. And woo! That was another fun episode of The Grenade. And before we leave you here this week, just another quick reminder to check out theretronetwork.com for all of your retro needs of the 1980s and 1990s. You can also follow them on Twitter at TRNSocial. Be sure to check out our new home at WrestleCopia.com and our Patreon account at patreon.com/WrestleCopia for an astounding 14 tiers of offers that cover anyone's budget. We encourage you to subscribe as a patron, unlock all the great gifts there at Patreon, and help us put a few bucks back in our pocket to cover the upfront expenses of putting the podcast network together. That address again is patreon.com/WrestleCopia. Again, our new home is WrestleCopia.com. You'll find our new RSS feed there. And as always, you can access us on pretty much every podcast streaming app out there, from Apple to Spotify to Stitcher, Pocket Cast, on down the line. We've also got a couple of new free prize giveaway contests coming in the near future. More autographed 8x10s, certified Arn Anderson autograph promo pic, and a badass picture of the Enforcer. Plus a recently signed 8x10 by the one and only former WWF Intercontinental and Tag Team Champion Tito Santana. Tito recently did a live signing online, and we grabbed a few extras in the process, and we're looking to share those with you. And all you have to do is follow us on Twitter at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Following us ensures your chance at a free entry into our free giveaway sweepstakes each and every week. Follow us now and spread the word, because the more followers we get, the more gifts we can give away. It's just that simple. And so on behalf of my co-host Stephen Eckstadt, this is Ray Russell saying, from pillar to post and coast to coast, you pull the pin, we'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. See you next week. Don't miss it. Be there.
You're a stranger, you're weird, you're cuckoo. Nah, yeah!